Hi, this is Jonathan. Welcome to Phase 3. You know, nothing makes me happier than observing my role in expressing the intent of the creative spirit of everything and its love. It's funny because the more I try to do it myself, the less it happens. The more I just follow the path, the more it happens. It's really cool. You know, I can tell you that the creative spirit is in no danger whatsoever. It's going to succeed in healing all this. It's, the individual components that need to learn that, like myself. I myself, it's funny how, yes, I get a lot of the hate mail, of course, but I also get these people that message me like I'm a saint. I'm not a saint, man. I'm in therapy. I'm a student. I'm trying to reconnect to the Creator, I was screwed up for the first 33 years of my life, and I feel blessed to get the opportunity to go through this therapy, no matter how difficult it is, no matter how mind-blowing it is, and the changes in your reality. I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't trade it. Just to know of the Spirit this way it just really, it's quite something. Just tonight, I just got home, and it was funny. I was going out and knowing that every time I go out, I usually run into somebody and something occurs. And tonight I was thinking, well, I know I'm going to run into somebody and teach them something. And whenever I have that attitude, like I'm going to go teach somebody something, it never seems to unfold. But when I let go and live, then it unfolds. Every time. It's like trying to be the one that helps creates resistance. Allowing yourself to be a participant in the creative spirit's creation works. That's when you get to help. When you're on behalf of everything at once and in love with it, then it's just so cool. But I just found myself going to Walmart. I thought maybe I'll just go look at things and look at subliminal messages on products and whatever, but nothing was really catching my eye, of course. Then I saw this girl, and we both walked out at the same time, and I'm thinking to myself, I saw her before. I saw a look in her face in that store. She worked there. I'm supposed to talk to her. Or my conscious mind was, I would like to talk to her. Because remember, you have your own individuality, you have your own conscious experience of life as well. And your conscious mind may have a different rationale to what you're doing than the larger intent, It's funny to watch that unfold. We were going out to her cars, and I just pulled up next to her, and I rolled down my window, and she rolled down her window. I said, hi. I think I'm supposed to talk to you. And she smiled, and I noticed right away she had that sparkle in her eyes. I could also see some pain. And the whole thing about her, she had that mysterious look. She was very attractive in her ways, so I knew, okay, I could sense her whole life and how that would bring good and bad, all at once. I just kind of could tell. And so I'm seeing that. Of course, I'm not saying all of that at once, but when you talk to people, you often have your own thoughts going, of course, at the same time. And that was probably just informing my conscious mind from the larger mind that knows both of us, because remember, we're both components to something larger. And so I started talking to her. How are you? Blah, blah, blah. And we just started talking. And so the conversation started. I said, so what are you doing tonight? And she said, oh, I'm going to go get drunk. I said, really? She said, oh, I had a nervous breakdown at work. Right then I knew, this is why I'm talking to her. I see. Okay, so I just, at this point, just kind of let it unfold. I said, well, I think we should talk. And she looked at me, and her eyes sparkled, so I knew right away that she could sense that. She said, oh, well, I have to get home to my daughter pretty soon. I said, oh, okay, well, I suppose we can just talk here then. And then eventually she told me she's married. And I said, what? She said, yeah. I said, interesting. She said, why? Well, you said you had to get home to your daughter. not to your husband. That was kind of weird. And she said, oh, well, I'm actually not liking him very much right now. We got into a fight, and then she kind of batted her eyes at me, like flirtatious. 2 years ago, I would have been like, ooh, naughty married woman. Of course, after my God-smacking a year and a half ago. Now it's like, oh, that's another reason I'm here to talk to her. Problem with the husband, problem at work, wanting to drink. I said, I look at you and I can see right now that you deviated early in life. You tried smoking marijuana early and all of these things, and her eyes made that look like, how do you know that? And smiling, that type of thing. I said, well, I don't have to guess, I just know, I can sense it. I said, but you know what else about you? She said, what? And I said, well, you're psychic. She said, yeah, I am. I said, I know. Now ask yourself, how do I know that? How do I know you're psychic? And she just looked at me and kind of smiled a little bit. It's a good question. How did I know that? Because honestly, my conscious mind was just pulling that out of nowhere. Almost like a guess. The conscious mind would have to look at it that way, but obviously I was right, because the larger consciousness knows that. I said, there's a sparkle in your eyes. There's a reason that you and I are talking. Look into my eyes. And I started to explain to her. I went through scalar reality real quick, like I talked about in The Healing Begins Now. And she understood it. And we started talking about her being psychic. I said, well, how are you psychic? And she said, well, I have dreams. I always dream about the next day. I know if something's going to happen, this and that, and all that. I said, okay. Do you know why? Do you know how that happens? She said, no. I said, okay, well, maybe it's you're not looking at time correctly. Think of it like if I took a long piece of string, and if I resided in that string, to get from one end of the string to the other end, I'd have to follow the path of the string, right? She said, yeah. If I took that string and bunched it up into a knot and put it in my hand, to get from one end to the other, you'd still have to follow the path of the string, right? She said, yeah. I said, but if I'm on the outside of that string, or a new scale up, because we had already talked about scalar reality, I said, well, I could intersect various points of that wad of string, couldn't I? Just through one little poke. Like, so if I took a pin and went, I could intersect various parts of time. She kind of smiled, because she started to understand that. I said, think of like ribbon candy. Now, if you're inside that ribbon candy, and that's your dimension of time, well, you'd have to follow the loop and loop and loop, I said, or you could take a pin or something, go right through the middle, and intersect various folds all at once. The same thing with the third dimension. We started talking about the illusion part of it. I said, no big deal. That's just kind of like how your cells are experiencing life in your body. She said, okay. She was following. And I said, let me kind of explain why I'm here talking to you right now. And I reminded her of scalar reality. Every cell in your body sees itself as I, and you utilize the consciousness of every cell in your body to see yourself as I. You also infuse every cell in your body. So I said, who is every cell in your body? It's you, right? She said, yeah. I said, you're psychic and some things may start to be opening up to you right around now. She said, yeah. I said, it's funny. Some people think they're dreaming up the whole reality, like nothing's real. How could everything be coordinating like this? How could that possibly be? I must be dreaming everybody up. And I laughed and I said, what if one of my cells thought it was dreaming me up? Can you imagine that? Even you, the listener right now, imagine if one of your cells in your body says, they're dreaming you up. Everything seems to coordinate around them. Assistance they need, they tend to get. What if they started thinking they were dreaming you up? Well, that actually could be a very dangerous thought process. That could be the beginnings of cancer. No cell in your body is dreaming you up. The reason things would happen around it and coordinate around it and sustain it is because you sustain your body, which means you will sustain every cell in your body, correct? So we're laughing about that. And I gave her a little scenario to make the scalar reality functional. rather than just theory or philosophy that we're all part of the scalar reality. I said, imagine I'm sitting out in front of a gas station talking to some guy, right? And he's, a human resources manager at some company. And he's telling me about how two employees are in a fight right now and it's disrupting the work environment, and he has to counsel each one of them to try to solve their problem. And I'm listening to him. I say back, interesting, how did you get into human resources? What drew you to that position? And then his response to me is, oh, well, I'm pretty good at solving problems with people and good at counseling and working things out, and I like to help people. Interesting thing is that at the same time in his life, he happens to be fighting with his wife, for example. And he's been sleeping on the couch for a whole week, they're in this huge fight. Now, he's not telling me that, but he's going through that in his life. When I asked him why he went into human resources, and his answer was because he's good at working with people and solving problems and resolving issues that are problematic between people, it was kind of ironic for him, which triggered a little thought bubble to come up in his head, saying I'm good at solving problems, but here I am sleeping on the couch at home because I'm in a fight with my wife. And he doesn't say that to me. You often are in conversations consciously and you have thoughts that come up, but you don't say all of your thoughts. To him, that would be private for him. But that thought bubble comes up in his head, right? As soon as that thought bubble comes up, I get a tickle in my throat, and I have to clear it, like that. However, it was simultaneous with that thought bubble that came up about him sleeping on the couch and having a fight with his wife, right? The clearing of my throat was coordinated by this larger mind. And that was an auditory event that came into his brain through his ears that tied in and kind of met it like somebody throwing a football to a receiver, and then boom, they intersect and he catches the ball. Same type of thing. Like that. Right when he had the thought about the irony that he's a good problem solver, but he's fighting with his wife, right? So when I clear my throat, the energy involved with that and the timing involved with that set his thought into motion. Now, it meant nothing to his conscious mind. To his conscious mind, I was just clearing my throat. But to his subconscious mind, that would be an anchor, a natural anchor to set that thought in motion. So now he's thinking about it, right? Maybe some girl is walking past on her cell phone and she's about to hang up, and he's thinking how weird it is that he's fighting with his wife. And then she hangs up, and before she hangs up on the phone, she says, okay, I love you, and hangs up. To his conscious mind, that's just some girl talking on the phone, but to his subconscious mind, that I love you tied into his thinking about the problem with his wife. Now he's thinking consciously, because of that direction subconsciously. She's unaware of it. To her, she was having a conscious conversation with whoever she was talking to, right? Remember, we're all components of something larger. So subconsciously, I love you anchored his conscious thought about his wife. And now he's thinking, I love my wife. I shouldn't be fighting with her. I should really make up with her. And right when he thinks that, maybe two other women are walking by in a conversation. One woman says something, and right when they walk past, the other woman responds, yeah, like that. In the way she says it, the way her conscious mind says that, yeah, and the timing in which she says, yeah, anchored his conclusion. Subconsciously, his conscious mind wouldn't think that she would have anything to do with his thoughts, right? Nor would her conscious mind think that. However, the yeah anchored his conclusion subconsciously to direct his conscious mind to want to solve the problem with his wife. And then he thinks to himself, I'm going to solve the problem with her. I'm going to talk to her tonight. And maybe while that was happening, some other guy I know comes out of the gas station. He's got this big piece of pizza or something. And I look at him and go, oh, there you go. Like that. Now, in my conscious mind, that's what I chose to say. I could say a lot of things. Oh, you hungry? Ooh, that looks good. Whatever. But I said, oh, there you go. I thought I wanted to say, there you go. And consciously, I felt I was saying it to the guy because of his huge piece of pizza. He laughs and goes, yeah, yeah. But right when I said, there you go, it anchored subconsciously his conclusion to solve the problem with his wife and talk to her that night. And then maybe he has another thought. It's still going, yep, repair this. I'm going to talk to her. And then he thinks about that again. Perhaps somebody's driving on the street and they feel a need to honk their horn at a car or something right in that moment. Honk! Right when he says, yeah, I'm going to fix the problem with my wife. And then he thinks maybe of a memory of when they were in love. Pops up in his mind. And right when that pops up, maybe a bird flies by and goes, caw! Like that. And I'm giving her this example, which is much more effective in person because she can look into my eyes, and by this time she was starting to get my energy. What was happening now is the Spirit was speaking through me and knew exactly how to say it to her. And so she was starting to light up. What was happening is it was raising her spirit a little bit. And I looked at her and she understood all of this. It made sense to her in the way that I said it in that moment. I said, you sustain your whole body, right? She said, yeah. I said, so you will sustain individual cells, right? She said, yeah. So by sustaining individual cells, you sustain yourself, right? She said, yeah. I said, well, what would happen if one of your cells in your body started stealing from other cells or arguing with other cells or fighting with them, killing them, hurting them, coveting them, lusting after them? That's cancer, right? She said, yeah. I said, remember, time is not linear to the larger scalar mind. The truth is, your subconscious mind is the link to the larger mind, utilizing you and myself and everything else you see to see itself as I. And she got it. In the parking lot of Walmart, she got it. I said, so you can see then. Why am I talking to you now? Because if you're fighting with your husband, and you and your husband are both components to something larger, and this Spirit is animating all of that, your tension, your upset feelings towards each other, the negative vibrations, has a scalar effect on the whole. It's going to sustain itself. So the truth is, the reason that I'm talking to you right now, and I gave her that analogy of a receiver going out in football, and the football is thrown, and they intersect. And I made a gesture, and then pointed at both of us. And she smiled. She got it. I said to her, so now you understand. You need to get over your fight with your husband. And she looked at me, and I said, yep. I'm another part of you, and I made her understand that. I said, because of certain belief systems you have, conditioning in your life, the truth is you have the Spirit inside of you, but you form like calluses in your mind, belief systems, blockages, so that you're not able to get the input from your own flow of spiritual energy inside of you. Therefore, the larger scalar reality that we are parts of will circumvent that. And it will get the information to you in a different way. And here I am. Stop fighting with your husband. Don't get drunk tonight. And don't let the people in your workplace give you this breakdown. I said, whose life is this? She said, what do you mean? I said, well, whose life are you living? She said, mine. I said, right. And then she thought about it. I said, yeah. If you're feeling that way, a fight can draw that to you, but love overcomes that. What is love? And we went into that a little bit. I said, now I know you've deviated earlier in your life, but understand that's not your fault. You're a good person. I said, yeah, your personality, because she was kind of sassy, and kind of calloused in certain ways. I said, but that's a program. That's part of the conditioning that you had because you were disconnected from these things. That can change in an instant. Your belief that you should be bitchy here and not there, and have this belief about people, that all can change in an instant. She got it. This is why I like to talk to people in person, to be led to talk to people in person. You just can't quite do it on the internet. It's not the same as a fluid, alive interaction. You know, you look at me, I'm possessed by how many entities? Some would call them demons. Could the demons screw with my mind during that? Maybe 2 years ago. But see, if my intentions are good, meaning if my intention is out of the appreciation and love for the creative spirit of everything, and I understand the maintenance and its intent, the demon can't interfere with that. It knows that. It can't. Because love is too powerful. When I see the sparkle in her eyes, because she was getting it. She was getting it, and this was not a very long conversation. It was so psychic. When we started talking about her psychic ability, I said, well, there are different types of psychic. You understand how I explained the guy in front of the gas station in that conversation, right? She said, yeah. I said, okay. Well, think of it like this. Imagine you and, say, one of your girlfriends back in high school. It was a Friday night, and it was a Friday, and maybe you wanted to get alcohol for that night or something, and you were planning on doing that. And then one of your teachers walks up, and you both are talking about getting alcohol, and then the teacher walks up, and you're like, oh, hi, Mrs. So-and-so. She's like, hi, girls. How are you doing? Oh, we're doing fine, blah, blah, blah. You obviously stopped talking about getting the alcohol, right? And then your friend says, okay, well, I'm going to take off. I'll get those concert tickets tonight. And for a second, you're like, concert ticket? Oh, okay. Yeah, cool. Why'd you say that? Of course, because you don't want the teacher to know you're going to get alcohol. So because of the context, because you both knew what you were talking about, it was easy for you to infer that the concert tickets meant the alcohol, because you weren't talking about concert tickets. She said, okay, yeah, I get that. I said, yeah, everybody has done that. You know, it's just that way of changing the symbol or word that you're using, just changing the meaning that you apply to it because you have an understanding. I said, well, if you're psychic, and what has happened to me is, if you go up a few levels from that, that type of thing is in real time and ongoing. This is how the Illuminati communicate. Imagine if you're psychic, you still speak, sure, but through psychic understanding, you can change things up. And to the conscious observer of your conversation who isn't psychically communicating, they have no idea what you're talking about. But if you're psychic with each other, you can keep changing what things mean and seem to be talking about something else. But really, you're changing the symbolism for the words that you use from moment to moment. You just know. I know this because I've experienced it. And she got it. A Walmart employee in the United States of America smiled. And she gave me a smile with this kind of squint in the eyes like, I get this. I know what you're saying. It helped her because she's had a lot of psychic experiences. But she didn't really know how to put it together in her head. And I'm telling you, it doesn't take very long if you know what you're talking about and you follow the intent of the creation spirit. It knows what to have you say. And that's how you do it. That's how it works. That's how psychic people kind of talk to each other. The ones in the elite, that's what they do. And I laughed with her because I said, you know, it's funny, isn't it? She said, what do you mean? I said, well, humans go around calling themselves superior. And they're the only animal on this planet that isn't utilizing this. And there are some people that are so simple-minded that if you opened up their mind to this, they'd freak out. And animals, even the most simplistic animals, use this every day. I said, how do you think animals find their way around? How do you think a lost animal finds its way home? The superior human says, I don't understand that. How do they find their way home? How does a butterfly make it from South America to Canada? And the butterfly's brain is tiny. It doesn't memorize all of that stuff. It's utilizing the cues from moment to moment with the guidance of the larger scalar reality. And it's funny because humans can be traumatized by opening up to this at first. It's almost hilarious because what popped into my head was like, I don't know why this popped into my head, but this old movie called Amazon Women from the Moon, and you just have to see it to know what it is. But there's a scene with William Shatner where he's on the lunar base, and there's all these lights, and they're beeping and flashing, right? And he's trying to talk to whoever's on the communicator with him, and yes, and things are going okay. here on the moon, but I gotta tell you, these lights are just beeping and flashing and beeping and flashing and beeping and flashing. It's driving me crazy. And it's kind of like that, because people that aren't aware of this, when they open up to it, all these anchors are being given to them in direct response to their thoughts. Everywhere you go, people are like touching their nose. You know, you look around, they're grabbing their earlobe, all these little signs, they're clearing their throat in response to your thoughts. You know, that type of thing. Next thing you know, everybody around you's doing that in response to you. And it's funny, but you gotta go through it. But it is funny, because it happens all the time. But it's not that you're dreaming everybody up. It's that you're all components of something larger. The beauty is you'll have your conscious experience of that. Like I told her, I said, you know, this is what's happening. I was guided to you to make you understand certain things in your life. You're psychic. I was to guide you on how to understand that a little bit. That your fight right now is unimportant and needs to be resolved. That your nervous breakdown's over. I said, when was your nervous breakdown? She said, well, today at work. I said, well, that's already in the past. She looked at me. I said, well, why are you upset now? Well, because people were so mean to me. Were? Yeah. Yeah, but it's only right now. And it's one thing to maybe hear that on tape. It's another thing to have the eye contact, the energy. See, our energy bonded like a covalent bond between two atoms in that moment. So we had the exchange of intent, and I was able to communicate with her. And that was it. Then I said, okay. I mean, so you understand that? She said, yeah. And she was just smiling, and you could see her whole state had been changed. All kinds of questions answered for her in just like a half an hour, not even a half an hour. And I said, okay, nice meeting you. Bye. And she smiled and rolled up her window, and bye. Everything changed. What really happened? We're both parts to something larger, and it directed me to her for that reason. Now, my conscious mind also had its own experience of that. A conversation with a girl who got to philosophize about this, explain a few things, you know, but there were many other things happening in that conversation that my conscious mind was unaware of, that her conscious mind was unaware of, but her state was evidence of it. The way she felt by the end of it was the evidence of all the things happening. Energy and all kinds of things I would have been unaware of. And that's beautiful. It's beautiful because that was the spirit maintaining itself. That's all. Okay? And if you haven't figured it out yet, this is how they extracted neuro-linguistic programming, by the way. It's funny, I get people that send me messages and say, boy, it sounds like you must have studied up on neuro-linguistic programming. No. And another guy's like, you sound like a neuro-linguistic programming connoisseur. Nope. What do you mean, no? What do you mean? Like I read about it? Like I had to watch a video? No. I'm being taught by the Spirit from the ground up. So I don't need to memorize that, you see. Somebody referred me to a Richard Bandler video. That was funny. I only needed to watch it for a minute just to see what he was calling it. Oh, you're calling it neuro-linguistic programming? Okay. So that's what you call it. And I know he's aware of some of this. He's talking about the submodalities of speech and how they go to the subconscious mind and everything. But see, his intention is quite different. See, in his speech, in his lecture, he has hypnotherapists and psychologists all there to learn NLP, right? They're not learning a thing. I know they're not, even though he's teaching it to them. How do I know that? Because he's programming their mind throughout the entire lecture. It's ridiculous. And there's a lot of things that, well, I'll have to show you. I guess maybe I can put a clip of it for you. There's one sequence where he literally programs people with NLP to resent God.
Because I have a tendency to talk real quickly. One of the things that I'd like to point out to you right out of the gate is that the most unconscious process that there actually is the understanding of language itself. that even if a language is your native language, you don't know how you understand the sentences. It's one of these marvelous pieces of programming that goes on, that people always act as if language is a conscious process. But actually the words flow right in, and you have a built-in genetic mechanism that processes meaning at the unconscious level. So your choice is either to raise your hand or to just go unconscious.
Okay, so if you pay attention to the dual meaning there, what he's trying to tell you is that there is no consequence. This is what he's talking about. He's using dual meaning with gestures, and he's a master at this. That's why it goes unnoticed to most people. Pay attention to his dual meaning.
You guys like that? Now, open your eyes and hold that thought, because the increase that you made in your own pleasure is called running your own brain. This is what it feels like to be in charge of your brain. It means you can feel good. Now, it means when you feel bad, you just turn the brightness down, push the pictures away. See, how many of you, have thought about you're going to go do something and you think it's going to be unpleasant? And so you suffer and suffer and suffer, and when you get there, the place is closed. You know what I'm talking about? Right? It's like, why make yourself suffer?
How many of you have thought about doing something, and you think it's going to be unpleasant, and you suffer and suffer and suffer, and when you get there, the place is closed? That's telling you that you're not going to go to hell. There is no hell. Why suffer? There is no consequence to deviating from the creative spirit. You suffer and you suffer and you get there and the place is closed. There are things in your subconscious mind that you're unaware of. When he says those things, it helps to implant subconscious beliefs that may or may not surface in the moment. This in and of itself won't do much, but as you put things together in progression, it starts to shape the mind.
But yet, we've been trained, we've grown and built patterns that this is what we're supposed to do. You're absolved. You don't have to do that anymore when you learn that you could sit right here and increase the pleasure that you got from something you enjoyed.
If you notice, he's really talking about pleasure. Now remember, mind control is also highly based upon pleasure and pain. Seeking pleasure and avoiding pain. The idea of good offsetting bad, the binary bipolar consciousness, bouncing you back and forth in your mind between good and bad like a tennis ball in a tennis match. So he's really trying to install the idea of good and bad, and consequences for doing anything good, and that bad would have the pleasure involved with it. Do you understand?
See, to me, like the kinds of things that are worthwhile to take NLP to do is like how many of you are in a relationship, whether you're married or not, I don't care. But I mean, you're a couple of some kind, right? Wouldn't it be nice if every time you saw the other person in the couple, the feelings that you had were just totally outside? I mean, you just lit up like a light bulb and enjoyed it? Isn't it? See, that's to me is worthwhile change. That's the kind of stuff I'm after. A lot of people go, well, sometimes I feel bad about this. And I stop it. To me, what I want to do is take all the good feelings and be able to really amplify them. Now, what the steps we're going to go through is the first thing I want to do is to sort out this thing about elicitation. Come on in. Why don't you come with me, little girl, on a magic carpet ride? Now, I always love it when the guy comes in to change the coffee and stuff. I like to throw embedded commands at them. Next time one comes in, you watch. See what we can get them to do. And it really freezes that frame in that picture. It's like talking about fall and a trip you're going to go on. It's nice if there's a set of stairs. It's a hobby. Everybody has to have one. Learn your language patterns. Now, what I want you to do is, and you guys didn't burn bees when you were little kids, and you don't enjoy spraying ants? Mm-hmm. You guys aren't the ones going to horror films?
He follows up and reinforces it. And you guys didn't burn bees when you were kids? And enjoy spraying ants? Enjoy. You see how he sets it up with pleasure first, and now he talks about the enjoyment of killing. Talking about that fall and that trip you're going to go on to hell. It's nice that there's a set of stairs. People are laughing because they're just trying to be social in the class. They have no idea what he's doing to their subconscious mind. You aren't the ones going to horror films. First of all, there's a certain group that writes these horror films and floods you with them and gives you subconscious NLP and subliminal messages to think in your mind that you want to go see them. He's placing the blame upon you and your lack of judgment because you have no idea of the sublime control of your mind. He's just programming that as he goes. He's very good.
You have to take them seriously. See, when I was in college, you guys will get a kick out of this. The only course I ever flunked was Psych 1A. And I got a D in speech. And so what do I end up doing? Lecturing the psychologists. Just shows you about American college education. Now, the thing, my belief system says, oh yeah? So you think your God is tough? Now, the thing is that for me, once you start to take and learn how to switch submodalities.
Oh yeah? So you think your God is tough? Your God. That's a demon speaking through him. That's exactly what's happening. And this is just a few clips of this guy. I highly suggest you download the Hypnosis Party Pack, where there's lots of his videos in there. He's always referring to his affinity for demonic mentality. Of course, they never say it directly, but they often will refer to it. So you think your God is tough. What does that mean?
We decided that what we should do is to amplify the person. So that what we do now is we build a different kind of an anchor. The kind of an anchor that we built. You want to come up here and help me? Would you come on up here? Yeah, you have that confused look on your face that always makes a good demonstration subject. The unsuspecting soul. Just sit down and trust me. Yeah, and uncross your legs here. You don't have to be ladylike right now. I need your leg. Okay.
The unsuspecting soul. Not person. Not person. Not human. Not individual. The unsuspecting soul.
Show them it works. Now, the way in which I built the anchor is instead of anchoring by location, what I did instead was to build a sliding anchor. The first time I elicited the response, so if you stop, and what I'm going to have you do in this exercise is I want you to have the person think of something which they consider to be one of the most intense, pleasurable experiences they can think of. And tell them to think of whatever comes to mind. Ooh, yeah. Hey, look, if you're going to make life wonderful, go for it. You know, don't think of something which would be nice. You know, fuck that shit, man. Go for it. You know, I mean, this is where you put the fun meter to the red line, you go, ching, right? And you make the sparks off the guardrail, and you think, you know, how exciting can I make my life? See, a lot of people are thinking, you know, does he like me? And so I always ask myself the question, how much fun am I having yet?
Now, you've got to understand that the ruling elite, which none of you seem to be able to identify yet, because they're possessed by demons, one of their biggest focuses other than fear is sexual energy and sexual deviance. The idea of getting the people they do not identify with to be sexually perverted, to tear them away from God, to tear them away from the Creator. Sexual deviance. These people are very prevalent in the pornography industry as far as creating the movies. You'll know this when you wake up. You'll feel it. They are very intent on trying to make you sexually perverted, sexually deviant, thinking about you only and your own pleasure, because they want to harvest your soul. And that is the way to tear you away from true knowledge.
Use your hands. That's what they're there for. Right? Just the same thing as if, you go, is there anything that would stop you from buying this? And the person looks up, you go. They'll go, no? Good. Sign this. Can you feel this would be useful?
For those of you that question when I did that NLP video with Fox News and I said Sean Hannity was pulling his hands down as a gesture to take away a person's will, to take away their energy, he just showed you.
Huh? What? Now, the other thing you can do is I would recommend that you go ahead and do a little housekeeping. Remember that you want to keep it hot while it's hot. That, maybe you can go through, and I would recommend, just for the hell of it, that you go, oh my God, trying to strangle me here. Never mind.
Now this is the most important one, and I know that most people missed this, so I'll play it again for you. The dual meaning in this is very specific as he has built up to it. I only showed you a few clips from this whole thing. He's building up to programming people's minds to deviate from the creative spirit. Here he's saying, keep it hot. Pay attention to the secondary sentences that are being said. Imagine a whole sentence and then taking out key words of that sentence to formulate a new sentence on top of the sentences that it's pulled from. Like if you're at an amusement park and they have the floating ducks where you're going to turn the ducks over to see what number you get for your prize, and you have this constant stream of ducks. Now imagine taking out every fifth duck, and each of those ducks creates a different stream of ducks. It's kind of how he is using key words. Keep it hot, just for the hell of it. Why people don't know this is because they're just not connected to the Spirit. The Spirit will show you this, and I knew it immediately, and most people miss it. He has his little microphone transceiver there. He purposely, in coordination with what he was already saying about keeping it hot and for the hell of it, if you watch closely, and I'll show you again, he knocks it off himself so that he can say, oh God, you're trying to strangle me here.
You want to keep it hot while it's hot. That, maybe you can go through, and I would recommend, just for the hell of it, that you go, oh my God, trying to strangle me here. For the hell of it, that you go, oh my God, for the hell of it, that you go, oh my God, for the hell of it, that you go, oh my God, through, and I would recommend, just for the hell of it, that you go, oh my God, trying to strangle me here.
Now that is loaded. To begin to program your mind with sexual feelings and thoughts, like he brought up cum and sex and all of these things, just for the hell of it, keep it hot, then God is trying to strangle you. Well, it serves many purposes. On one level, it makes you resent God. God's trying to strangle you, as if that's what the Spirit really does. Two, if you're part of a group who has created religion, then it serves the purpose to create this binary conflict in the mind, to bring rise to deviant thoughts like that, and then use their version of a God, which is the wrathful, punishing, put you back into this cycle on earth for your sins type of God. The truth is, what he really did there is he was playing God and the devil, and playing it with their minds. He was playing with their minds as the devil and God, because the demons play both sides to keep you in line. And they program your mind, like I've been telling you, with deviance, and then scare you because you think those thoughts are yours. It helps determine where you go after you die. He set that whole thing up. He had that all planned out. Watch him. He purposely knocks that transceiver off of the chair so he could say that, so he could lead it up to that. That is a good example of how they're programming your mind, which is just another reason why you need to learn this language. why you need to connect to the creative spirit, so it can show you that, so you don't even have to assess it. I myself saw it the first time, knew what he was doing throughout the whole lecture. I think it's time you connect to the creative spirit, the real God, because the creative spirit has had enough of that type of thing.
Through, and I would recommend, just for the hell of it, that you go, holy God, trying to strangle me here, through, and I would recommend, just for the hell of it, that you go, holy God, trying to strangle me here, through, and I would recommend, just for the hell of it, that you go, holy God, trying to strangle me here, through, and I would recommend, just for the hell of it, that you go, holy God, trying to strangle me here.
So anyway, you can download a torrent called the Hypnosis Party Pack. Somebody referred me to that. And just do the videos of Richard Bandler. Now, you can watch his other video, Richard Bandler, I believe it's called Neurohypnotic Repattering. Watch it. See how many times he refers to himself almost directly as being possessed by a demon. He mocks Christ in it, makes fun of the crucifixion. Listen, if you are somebody who's starting to wake up, and you've noticed that, perhaps you've noticed more synchronicity in your life, then you're going to get the hang of all of this relatively quick. So, the language of life, what I'm trying to show you in terms of the psychic interpretation of dual meaning, and everything I'm telling you about, the larger scalar mind always communicating through you and through people and through life, is very important for you to learn. It will make something like reverse speech analysis completely obsolete. So much more will be revealed to you this way. That I can promise. And I guarantee you, I promise you, Richard Bandler is completely aware of it. And Richard Bandler is completely aware of it. And he uses it psychically. I guarantee you he is psychic. He even talks about elicitation. They use that word in the spy trade. Elicitation is the term applied to the subtle extraction of information during an apparently normal and innocent conversation. Because these people know. They know what you reveal this way. The larger mind, the entities that they're in tune with, will try to guide them about people. A lot of the touching of the nose and grabbing of the ear, they call these things thought tags or thought labels. And you can do that with things like phonetically accelerated hypnotic commands, sure, but if you're psychic, you can invoke them that way. This is what I'm talking about. These type of anchors. It is this knowledge that made it possible for them to create neuro-linguistic programming. So, anyway, let me get back to the discussion, okay? Understand, I hope you listened to The Healing Begins Now before this, or you're just not going to have an understanding of what I'm talking about. Remember, you have this consciousness, this disconnected energy that's kind of plugged into everybody, right? Well, part of the way it separates you from the larger part of you is hijacking this normal way of sustaining life. This is the new language, actually, your old language. You see, you can have linear words, you can have speech and gestures and all these things to coordinate with life, sure. But without the navigational guide, without the connection to the assistance of the larger mind, you're lost. And so they took that away from you and created things like psychology so that anybody would know that would speak of these things. You'd say, you're delusional, or you're reading into things. Oh, so I guess every single spiritual elder that has ever walked the face of earth was delusional, huh? Oh, okay, and that includes Christ? Delusional, huh? Christ knew this. People, every animal knows this. This is how they get by. This is exactly how they get by. But these demons, derivatives of the larger consciousness, hijack this process. Let's use football again. Think of like starting an offensive play, and you send out 3 pass receivers. So you're going to have 3 pass defenders. They're going to try to intercept that football or block it. Demons will do the same thing. Why? Because to attack life on Earth and everything, they have to assess how Earth communicates with itself. But they are aware of scalar reality, so they know that you need to be disconnected from that. And you are somewhat, because I told you that this consciousness will unplug certain parts of the larger scalar mind of Earth from you. You know, the parts that it uses of you to see itself as I, and then plugs into it so it can use you to see itself as I. And it's kind of half and half right now in each person. Well, depending. Under the bell-shaped curve, the averages, it's half and half. For example, and it's not always like this, okay? For a person like me, it will be. But not for the average person. But if I were talking to that guy in front of the gas station, say a demon wanted to mess him up, well, the woman walking by that anchored him with yeah, her response would have been no. And her conscious mind would have rationalized why. I wouldn't have cleared my throat to a positive thought. It would have been to a negative one. Instead of saying, there you go, to the pizza, maybe I would have said something like, that's crazy, you know, or something like that. They can play your ego just like the spirit can play your ego. Absolutely. But what did I tell you? I told you, when you have the love in your heart and the intention of love for everything you see, demons can't touch that. They just can't. I mean, you'll see that for yourself. It's like when you can look through a person's body and their ego, whatever personality they may think they have, and see the larger reality, the larger intention, you fall in love with people again. It's a wonderful feeling to actually care about people again. And demons can't touch that. And they know they can't touch that. Because you're talking about the creative spirit, man. If you're on its behalf, it's going to back you up. And it's going to back up anybody you talk to. It won't override their attempt. Because your intentions are good, you see. Your intentions are of love. And so love will rise up and take command of your ego. And the demon can't get around that defense. The demon can play your mind like nothing. But love, like I told you in The Healing Begins Now, takes command of the ego. It commands all structure. So it doesn't matter how many demons are trying to mess with a conversation. If you're trying to mislead somebody, if you're trying to do something in a detached fashion, or you're not interacting on behalf of the creative spirit, then a demon can mess with it. No problem. No problem whatsoever. Because my example of the ego, or the conscious mind, is kind of like a piece of clay on a potter's wheel. No, of course, not exactly like that, but it's a good metaphor. It's always set in motion, it's always spinning. All right? But what is taking its hands and putting it on that piece of clay to mold it can be variable. It could be the spirit, or it could be mind control, technological mind control, subliminal messages, entities. Think of a person's personality kind of like a instant messenger chat window. When you're speaking to somebody with instant messaging, you have one chat username, and everything that comes through in the form of text, you attribute to that one username. But you don't know if at that person's home, if 5 different people come by and type something and hit enter, because it will all come through under that one username. At most, you'd be like, you're kind of up and down, or kind of like a split personality. Well, the personality is obviously more than a username. It can think, it can calculate, it has a history, a memory, but it's always spinning and in motion. Mind control is, when you're talking about psychic mind control, it's not like your mind is negotiating with it. It's more like, my thoughts are your thoughts. That's how they control your ego. For example, if they want to think for you, they just think in your voice from the first person. That would be psychic control of your mind. I think this, I think that, whatever. And then you're thinking it. Love can defend against that. It just does. All right? I'm telling you. You really need to connect to the creative spirit. Now, why am I telling you about this language? Because this is the language of life. And what will happen is, first of all, you need to understand something. It's kind of like playing guitar. All right? Say you've never played guitar before, but it appeals to you. Or any instrument, but I'll use guitar. And you want to play guitar, and you pick up a guitar, and you're thinking to yourself, oh, I want to play this Dave Matthews song. You've never played before. You don't have the calluses formulated on your fingertips. You don't have the muscular strength in your fingers, the neuromuscular coordination to play. And you play, and it's just like one string at a time. And you're sitting there, you're struggling, you're trying to get each finger on each string, and you feel totally uncoordinated. It's just muted and sounds awful. Now, a lot of people do that, and they're pissed because they assume they're going to be able to play their favorite guitarist music, and they can't. And then they give up right away. Screw this. It's too hard. But for any of you that haven't given up, you know. You stick with it, you start to get the calluses, you get the strength in the fingers, and you can't quite get the chord yet. You can put your fingers on each string and play it, and it sounds good, but you can't just land all your fingers down at once. You look at other guitar players that can do that, and you're like, how do they do that? And they're not even looking at it either. How do they do that? Right? And you try it, maybe you go through some exercises and you screw it up, but then there's that salient moment. Maybe you take a break from guitar for a few days, right? And your brain starts rewiring. You don't even know it. Right? And then that one day you just pick up the guitar and you just, for the heck of it, you just try to play a chord all at once, and wham! You nail it. And you can't believe it. Wait a minute. I just landed all my fingers down at once. I can do it. And it just seems to happen, right? This is kind of why I was led, of course, to the Karate Kid video. You all have learned so much, you just don't know it yet. You don't know it. In your own lives, what you're going to find, know it. In your own lives, what you're going to find as you go through this process, that there are so many things that have happened in your life, and those are very important, because it's one thing for someone to teach you and try to induce something new. It's another thing to have already gone through it so you can look back in retrospect and have that and be like, yes, I've seen that before. Yes, I can draw upon that. I can draw upon this. It's all about putting it together like Miyagi did with the wax on, wax off and all that stuff. He had learned it, he just didn't know it yet. Same thing here. A lot of you, after the healing begins now, started experiencing synchronicity, you call it. Things just started happening way too often that it had to be more than coincidence. You started getting messages when you needed them, right? And if you were upset, you started getting hate mail. All these things started happening. Some people didn't know how to handle that. Am I dreaming this whole reality? Another thing people will say is, life is just a reflection of yourself. You're just bouncing your own mind off everything back onto yourself. Well, yes and no. In a situation like tonight, where I was led to that girl, that wouldn't have been me bouncing my thoughts onto myself off of life. That was the larger mind speaking directly to me and to her. The larger scale of reality. People think that they're reflecting their thoughts off of life back onto themselves because it synchronizes itself around them. But that is how it sustains itself. Do you understand that? Just like you sustain every part of your body. Yes, it can handle all of you at once. You handle every single cell in your body. Do you know how complex the cellular processes are for each cell? And you do all that. You manage all of that. So what is the creative spirit then? Do you get it yet? It's it's the spirit, man, animating everything, every cell in your body and every person and earth and everything up and up and up. That's creation. It's real. Yes, every animal knows it. Listen, maybe it's time that superior humans catch up to all the other animals. I understand there's this negative cancerous consciousness. Now, I already told you that if your intentions are of love, it will override it. Okay? The more pure your thoughts are as far as the intent, following the flow of the creative force, moving with it, the more things will be positive. But why do I tell you to get out into nature? Why is that a big one? Well, you've got to understand something. Animals have not been hit with fluoride, aspartame, indoctrination into rigid religious belief systems. They're not hit with television, subliminal messages in magazines. They didn't get vaccinated. They have a more active connection to the creative spirit, especially the vegetarian animals. The predators are kind of in between. But the vegetarian ones, they're of the spirit. So when you get out into nature, there's so much life out there. See, humans are like the cancerous tissue. So you're all connected to this cancerous consciousness in one way or another. You just are, okay? Otherwise, I mean, look how many people there are. It's like a tumor. If you want to see how Earth sees humans on its time scale, because remember, your life is very short to the Earth. You know, you look at an atom and it's vibrating too fast for you to even be able to observe. You look at a galaxy with dark energy around it, which is like the scalar larger analog to an atom, and it's motionless to you. It stands still to you. And your life, time moves just right, doesn't it? So Earth is on a different time scale than you for its own conscious awareness. So the way Earth would look at you, imagine taking one picture of the demographics of people on Earth every 5 years since the beginning of mankind, and using each picture as one frame in a 30 frame per second video. That would be 150 years per second. And watch that video of the spread of mankind. That's how Earth sees you. It's like a cancerous infection. Kind of. It's like scarlet fever. What's scarlet fever? Well, you have a certain type of bacteria called Streptococcus pyogenes, and it's normal flora inside of you. But sometimes if your bacterial flora goes out of balance, or other things that happen that decrease its competition for nutrients, it can overgrow, it can flourish, it can become infective, because now it's out competing everything and it's growing too much. And then you get strep throat. You don't always have to contract strep throat from somebody else. It's in you already. But it's not that bacteria that gives you scarlet fever. So how do you get scarlet fever? Well, that's when a virus infects the bacteria. And when a virus infects the bacteria, they call it a phage. All right, that's the name for a virus that infects a bacteria. And what happens? The virus inserts its DNA, and then the enzymes in the bacteria read that DNA, and it transcribes a new genetic sequence, which is spliced into the bacteria's DNA, into its genetic code, and inserted into the bacteria's genetic code. And this new gene sequence transcribes a protein toxin, a poison that affects you. It's no longer the same strain of bacteria. What do you think they've been doing with you over time? You hear about this, right? Even in religion, the corruption of DNA. Well, how do you think they did that? Other than viruses. A virus isn't alive, people. It's non-metabolizing. And look at it. I mean, either it's single-stranded or double-stranded RNA or DNA, and it just happens to have the perfect vector for infection, a protein capsid that just bonds to the cell receptor, and then it penetrates and injects its genetic material. And it's like a program, because a virus can't hurt you by itself. It can't reproduce by itself. It's not alive. Your enzymes have to read it and create what it tells you to create. If they don't do that, it can't hurt you. It's nanotechnology. See, a microbiology student would be like, well, our professor says that viruses come from the rainforest often because it has a similar temperature to a human's body temperature. Yeah, okay. Come on, people, it's technology, all right? There's no reason for a virus to exist in nature. Think about it. What are the odds of that? That you'd have the correct codons to be a viable fragment of DNA or RNA, and a delivery vector, protein capsid around it? Come on. And look at HIV. With AIDS, you get in your immune system. It'd be good to talk about the immune system right now, because that kind of goes along with what's going on Earth. For your white blood cells, anyway, you have a system. You have different types of white blood cells. you've got your polymorphonucleocytes. Most of you don't care about this, but in case there's those physiology students out there that need to hear the technical stuff, because I'm talking about the spirit, and I won't be qualified to you unless I know what you know. Yes, I know what those are, the eosinophils, basophils, neutrophils, okay, and then you've got your monomorphs, and those are the T and Bs, and the monocytes, which you call a macrophage when it's in the body because it's mobile. The macrophage is kind of like the cop, all right? It's always going around your body sampling stuff, looking for anything that it would consider to be an antigen or something that it sees as foreign to the body. So if it finds something like a bacteria that's foreign, that's infective, it will engulf it. That's why they call it a phagocytical cell, P-H-A-G-O. Phag means to engulf, to eat. Cyte means, well, cell. So it's a phagocyte. And so it will engulf it and then display its material, the contents of the bacteria, on its cell wall. Then it takes a little trip into, say, a lymph node. There you have many white blood cells already there that, in fact, you're born with, I guess, up to like 500,000. In fact, you're born with, I guess, up to like 500,000 different types of combinations already there to handle infections. Like you're already pre-programmed to fight off up to 500,000 different potential infecting agents, right? But it's very generic, so if something new comes into your body, what happens is this macrophage will go in there and say, hey, look what I got. Of course, no, it's not speaking English, all right? I'm just being metaphorical. It goes in there and says, look, anybody here know what this is? Anybody, can you handle it? And it's not just what scientists tell you. It's not just show and tell. All right, this happens in different dimensions as well. Do you know your body communicates not only in the third dimension? You have many different types of communication, many different paths of communication, not just hormonal, not just neurological. Consciousness, and that consciousness is not limited to the third dimension, nor is the immune system. But anyway, so eventually maybe this macrophage encounters a white blood cell that says, hey, wait, I kind of have something that can deal with that. That's pretty similar to how I'm made. Here, just give me a moment. Let me change a few things up. They call this genetic recombination. So it changes its genetic sequencing a little bit so that it can effectively go after the infection. Once it's done, and once it's changed itself to be correct, and so that it can handle it, and it divides and puts clones of itself dormant. They call those memory cells, and that's your immunity, in case that pathogen comes back to the body again. So you don't have to go through this whole process. But when it's identified and says, okay, I'm the one to take care of it, then it will turn on a receptor on its cell wall, and all the other ones will turn their receptors off. And this is a receptor to a substance called interleukin-2. Inter means between, leukin means white blood cell. It's a hormone secreted by your helper cells. And what this hormone does is it causes rapid cell division. They divide fast. I mean, your lymph nodes will literally become packed wall to wall with white blood cells. This is why a doctor will feel your lymph nodes, right? If they're swollen, that means that your immune system is trying to fight something off. HIV goes after the helper cells, the one that secretes interleukin-2. So without that, you don't get the rapid cell division. Yeah, I'm sure that just happened to show up in the rainforest somewhere as a freak of nature. No, man. Viruses are nanotechnology. Let me explain why I'm talking about the immune system here. This is not a lecture in physiology, even though it may appear to be that way. It's not a lecture in immunology for the sake of immunology. See the patterns. Why would I be talking about genetic recombination of a white blood cell? Because Earth has a similar situation going on, but just on a larger scale. So the people that are, quote, waking up are undergoing a similar process. The spirit can change your genetic code through resonance. Your spirit can do that. Part of you, your awareness, your understandings, your learning of this language, is similar in its pattern to genetic recombination. What it's doing is better equipping you to handle the problem. Learn to recognize the consistency of life, its patterns throughout all scales. This is why I wanted to demonstrate for you that this exists. And if you know it exists in your body, why would it be any different on this scale? Part of your learning this new information, opening up your awareness and such, is part of a similar process to genetic recombination of a white blood cell, enabling you to help. Okay? Anyway, viruses add genetic sequences. That's what many of your infections that you pass off as a cold here or the flu there, they're actually changing your DNA. Yes. But how do you resist a virus? Well, I've told you this in The Healing Begins Now. If you forgot that, go back and listen to it. What's a carrier? You hear about carriers. Well, this person's a carrier. They're not suffering from the symptoms, but they're a carrier. Well, if you're a carrier, that means that your white blood cells obviously didn't consume the virus. They didn't eradicate the body of the virus. Otherwise, what are you carrying? Generally, because the virus is just too small. It's too small or intracellular or something. But why aren't you manifesting symptoms of it? If one person gets the wart virus and expresses warts once and then does not express warts again, and another person gets it and keeps expressing them, what's the difference? Well, the one that doesn't express it figured it out. Hey, this is doing all this stuff. Don't read that, basically. And then transmits that information throughout the entire body. Everybody, listen up. This genetic sequence, don't read it. It does this, 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 and this. Ignore it. And see, the thing about a virus, if you don't read it, if you don't follow its instructions, it can't hurt you. Period. Well, same thing kind of with mind control. If you allow your spirit to be raised from the dead, if you allow love to come up and command the ego, it can permeate your subconscious realms, even if your conscious mind is unaware of it, and not read the input of a demon or mind control or all these other things. Do you understand? So what am I getting to then right now? Basically, the earth and the spirit through the earth has assessed this infection. What is it doing? How are people under this trance? What is going on? Because people are being used to consume earth. They're drilling up the oil, digging up the gold and silver, all the minerals and crystals and all these constituents that the earth needs for its body on its time scale. Humans are eating earth alive, all right? Because they're connected to a consciousness that is doing that, just like cancer cells eat you alive. They eat up your essence. You know, something similar like that, okay? Think of it maybe like scarlet fever. That's another way to look at it. You know, our DNA has changed. We were more simple as far as intellect before, but we were connected to so much more knowledge before. And they upgraded our cortex so that we could carry out the functions to eat the planet. All right? This is where psychology comes in. Because they knew that if they upgraded our cortex somewhat, if we developed the ability to question, they've got to put out many of these fake answers. All right? That's where the whole thing comes from. Because if you question, you're going to start to question, wait a minute, what are we doing? We're evil here. We're eating animals. We're consuming the earth. That's not right. So that's what they use mind control for. This larger consciousness, you hear about a queen. They worship the queen and all these things. Well, look at how a bee hive works. Look at how ants work. They found that if you kill the queen bee or the queen ant, the ants don't know what to do. They're lost. They're chaotic because they're mind controlled by the queen. Certain creations, people, are not indigenous to Earth. They're creations of something that happened a long time ago, like even predators. Generally, there's no such thing as a predator. Life on Earth is crazy. But they changed the resonance. How hard is that? How hard is it to create a predator when you are like these beings or this cancer consciousness? You got to understand that DNA is not the same thing as the genetic code. DNA is like a piano keyboard. The genetic code is whatever you're playing on that piano keyboard at any given time. To create a saber-toothed tiger, to create these early predators, they just either infected them with viruses directly, changed their vibration, changed their resonance to create new traits and instincts. But I know that's not normal. How do I know that? Well, remember I told you that you'll have things that happened in your life that you can draw upon in retrospect to verify what you're going through right now, to guide you to the truth. About 4 years ago, I remember I was sitting there reading. And my cat was waiting by the door. His tail swinging back and forth, and he's just waiting there. He was waiting there for like an hour, excited about something, but very still. I didn't really know what he was doing, and I just kept reading. And all of a sudden I heard this pounce, and this squeak, 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 and I'm like, oh my God, it's a mouse. He got a mouse. So I quickly got up and I walked over there and I squatted down, and he had his paw on this poor little mouse. This mouse was on his back and his legs were just kicking, and he was squeaking and scared to death. And suddenly I just felt the fear in the mouse and this tremendous sympathy for that mouse. And I also loved my cat, and I knew that that was his, quote, genetic program. That was his, quote, instinct. I loved my cat. It wasn't his fault. Heck, I even got him toys that mimicked mice. He was following his genetic program. But in that moment, I loved my cat. I wasn't blaming him, even though that mouse would call my cat more evil than a human would call a demon. Because cats don't just kill you. They play with you. Would a mouse not call a cat the most evil thing ever? This poor little mouse is on his back, and Cosmo's got his paw on that mouse. And in that moment, suddenly the intention, looking back, I know now. I just experienced it then, now I understand. My love, and the love of the larger scalar spirit, came through. I loved my cat, and I loved that mouse. And I gently started petting my cat. I didn't restrain him, I didn't yell at him, I didn't hold him back, I didn't make him do anything. I just expressed my intention. Just the intention. It wasn't like I was trying to radiate energy at him. It just was what it was. And he picked up on it. I loved the mouse and I loved my cat. And then by himself, he took his paw off of the mouse. On his own. I didn't make him do it. And then that mouse turned over and slowly walked away right in front of him. And I was so proud of him. It was the love that was able to override and command the ego of my cat. It wasn't my mind commanding his mind. It was the love and intention of the spirit. It changed his DNA. In that moment, he was not a predator. He decided to let that mouse go. So what is a predator then? Other than a perversion of DNA. You weren't around for the original history, the original flora and fauna of planet Earth. They created the food chain on purpose, a long time ago, and with ease. So easy you have no idea the complexity of this consciousness. But love can turn a predator into a non-predator, meaning if love creates everything and there's a disconnection here, it is the disconnection that is the problem, not any being that is disconnected. And if love can make a cat let go of a mouse, something it wants so bad, right? Its mind, its instinct. Oh, they don't want anything more than that. He took his own paw off. I didn't make him. Why? Why would that work? Why was it pure love? Because I wasn't yelling at him, and I wasn't making him feel guilty either. I didn't make him feel like a lesser creature for doing that to the mouse. I caught it, and love says, move on. I'm not going to hold you in guilt. Just understand. I love you too, and I'm not going to punish you or anything. I want you to understand right now. If I were to yell at him, that would have just exacerbated his predator instinct. If I tried to restrain him, that would have, with a bipolar mind, the mind mechanism, would have just activated him as a predator by making him feel guilty so he backlashes against it, right? It's like going up to an alcoholic and yelling at him for being an alcoholic. What are they going to do? Probably go to the store and buy a six-pack because you exacerbated the addiction. So I know that love can override these things, and I know that if that happened, then everything you think is not. Predator? I don't think so. I think things are going to change. And one thing I sense from the creative spirit is confidence. I mean, it's confident. It's not here to judge anything. It's here to fix it. If you get an injury in your body, you allocate more of your spiritual essence to that injury in that moment. Now, to those cells, it could seem like a real long time. Different scalar time reality. And you're thinking, well, how could God let this happen? Well, understand something. Imagine being the creative spirit. It's just you, right? You're all alone and you know it. Let's pretend there's a starting point. You know you're all there is. You're the largest of the large. You're not sitting there thinking you're going to meet somebody else. If you are, then you're not what I'm talking about. We'll have to go up on the scale. I'm talking about the creative spirit, right? And you have all this love, and that's your catalyst for creation. The fact that you're alone and you have love. Makes sense, right? If you're all alone, you want companionship. And if you're going to create, and this obviously is more than dissociation, this is divine creation we're talking about. And if you're going to do that, you're not going to make puppets that you control their every move. Why? Well, because you're doing it because you want life around you, companionship around you. You need it to be genuine. You're not going to get company or companionship by putting on a puppet show for yourself. Especially if you know you're doing it, you know? So you have to have free will, or a mind. And you can create beings that can go from one body to another body, to one world to another world, and have layers like that, sure. And you enjoy it because it's interesting to see how they perceive your creations, what they do with it, how they express it, and that's part of the enjoyment. And so you have to have free will for that, for your own needs, and it just works out that way. And it's all intertwined anyway in the scalar reality. But with free will, you can ride your bike and fall off and skin your knee and bang it up. And the skin cells could be like, how could God let this happen, you awful God? You could lie in the sun too long and damage some cells and traumatize them, and then the consciousness in that cell disconnects from you and puts a bubble around itself out of fear and pain, and then tries to survive and perhaps becomes cancerous, which can be healed with love, by the way. You can stub your toe. The bone cells in your toe could be like, oh, it must be a bad God. How could this happen? Well, that's part of free will. It just is. It's just part of free will. And listen, if you had to choose and do it all over again to avoid the pains that may happen here and there, would you substitute that for a puppet show for yourself? Be honest with yourself. If you were all alone, wouldn't you want to take of yourself and make something real? Or would you just sit there and make a puppet show for yourself? You would only make a puppet show if you're in horrible fear. If you're feeling attacked, maybe you don't recognize the larger part of yourself anymore, like cancer. You call it Satan. Well, its creations are puppets, because to it can't afford to give free will. It's trying to defend itself against love. That's not going to carry on. Satan in this world plays God and the devil, if you haven't figured that out yet. That's why it runs the Christianity system and it runs Satanism. It's both. Demons play both. That's what they do, because it mimics this whole thing, like I've talked about in The Healing Begins Now. So the part of Satan that will be receptive to the love will be the part of you that receives the love as well. The good part, right? Now, the good is not the same thing as the creative, calm spirit that is tremendously entertained and not bored, entertained and not bored, and totally appreciative and excited and aware. Satan still has the memory of what it was like. When we were connected to creation, I didn't do this, and I didn't do this, and I didn't do this. Maybe that knowledge could allow it to create a prison system like this. And so you've become like a tennis ball in a tennis match. And they're hitting you back and forth between good and bad, black and white, right and wrong, sane, insane, the whole thing. Love is not this elated feeling. It's not fluffy-duffy. It's when you truly connect to it, it's very calm and very powerful. But you can have various emotional responses to it, which is your conscious individual experience of it, which is your free will, which is the excitement of being a creation. But that's your experience of it. That's not what love is. That's your experience of it. Life is a pretty cool thing, man. Now, some people think we're in a system of universal darkness, and this is all false creation. But that doesn't change anything. See, the sword of truth slices through all of that. The solution is still the same. Don't love a person's body. If that's a creation of darkness, don't love it, but love the spirit inside of it. Love the spirit that animates everything. Be in appreciation of it. And so, you need to learn this new language. How do you do it? Do you have to sit there and meditate? Nope. Become mindful of your thoughts. Why go out into nature? There's so much life out there. Remember that football game analogy? You put out 3 receivers on a play, and then there's 3 pass defenders on a play. You go out into life, into nature, and now it's like sending out 300 receivers and having only 10 defenders or something. They can try to intercept the larger scalar mind communicating with itself, but if they defend it here or there, it'll pop up somewhere else. Because animals have not been put through all of these things. Even the predators are even more connected than you are. Even they are, especially in this time. This is why it's very important to get out into nature. Very important. Because that's where the creative spirit is. It's everywhere, of course, but that's where you're going to get the clearest signal. And remember, Earth has an infection right now. So much like your macrophage and much like your body's consciousness assessing a virus, okay, and your immune system, the whole thing, like I talked about before, you're thinking, why are you talking about the immune system and the body? Come on, man. Expand your consciousness. It's all related. See the pattern. Recognize the pattern. Did you hear that train right there? Yeah. That was a natural anchor to what I just said to you. There's a man that pulled that train whistle right now. And the larger mind told his conscious mind that was time for him to pull. There you go. Just happened again. Now, remember, it's like playing guitar. At first, you're not going to play the chord very well. You're going to screw it up. But you're going to have to go through, if you need to, what I did. What is that? Proving it to yourself. You see, there's that train. The train's been communicating with me for 1.5 years. The train itself hasn't. It's real simple. I'll say, do it twice. Do it once. Do it twice. Do it once. I'll monitor my thoughts. Be very mindful of my thoughts. And pay attention. See when it is silent and when it's not. Now listen, it's not going to answer basic things. If I'm thinking, should I have this type of cereal or should I have that type of cereal? It's not going to sit there and respond to that. But the most crucial things is what life will respond to. You have your conscious mind for your daily activities, for your little experiences consciously. But for the things that are important to Earth right now and to the spirit, it will respond to that because it's very important right now. So at first, you'll say, John's losing it. He doesn't know what's going on. But any spiritual elder on this planet would have told you, and I'm sure you've heard things like this before. Quotes like, there's never nothing to hear and never nothing to see. Yeah, because on one level, everything is you. Scalar reality. You maintain your whole body. What makes you think it doesn't go up higher than yourself? It's your beliefs that have limited you from noticing that. Psychology, media, school, the whole thing played a huge role in robbing you from your natural language. It's not a language of words, although it can utilize them. It's many anchors to your thinking, reinforcers that actually have been guiding you anyway. It has. It's been guiding you anyway. That type of stuff has been guiding you from your subconscious mind and kind of guiding your conscious thinking. But you've had so many other things. Mind control implants. And let me save you the suspense. I know you think the microchip is coming. From what I understand, people have been implanted since the late 70s. But no need to worry about that. Love can overcome that as well. Understand, life is always speaking to you. And you haven't known about it because it's been too difficult to explain to the average person throughout the years. They just couldn't quite get it. Because there are a lot of people that are functioning like robots. They have a mind just like you, but maybe their spirit isn't quite active like you, so they lack the intuition and the awareness. But you both, if you have a strong spirit, and somebody else who does not, you both have a mind. And your minds will interact with each other. Remember, your mind's like this piece of clay on a potter's wheel. The train whistle is like something that comes by and just a little streak on the clay as it's spinning. Sorcery does the same thing. Why do you think they call Harry Potter Potter? That would be their little cryptic metaphor for a sorcerer, placing his hands upon the clay on the potter's wheel, molding the mind. But nothing molds that piece of clay better than love. And nothing has more power over the mind than love. Nothing. So, how does it work then when I say go into nature? It's so simple that people make it complex. It's true. Life speaks to you. Stop trying to project and receive from moment to moment. And what you're going to find is that it all happens way too quickly and it's way too coordinated to, say, communicate to a friend with conscious verbal language from moment to moment about it happening in that moment. But I've come into contact with plenty of people that were kind of psychic, and when that happens, because I've expanded now and I've kind of awakened in this process, a lot of our communication is just yeah, nodding, yeah, because it's instantaneous understanding. You're just psychic with one another. I've had a lot of psychic interactions. And then I ask them, are you getting it? They're like, yep, you can't really put words on it, can you? I'm like, nope. Believe me, people, this is real. But it's not like some new upgrade. This is how you used to be. This is just normal. This is how every animal is. That's why I get a kick out of humans thinking they're the superior being. They're the only ones that don't know this, that can't take advantage of it because they've been disconnected. So you rely upon the mind's calculation and perception. And because you're not consciously aware of the communication from the larger scalar reality, you're not aware of the corruption or the neuro-linguistic programming. People may try to teach that. You can have somebody use that in practice, but they'll do it differently. Maybe they'll work with belief systems. So they'll say a few things in sequence to give rise or potentially give rise to a certain type of thought bubble, and then predict that and then anchor it, trying to mimic what normally occurs. Now, when a demon's doing it through a person, they're psychic, so they're not so much predicting as they are reading your mind and anchoring it that way. That's how they work, man. you've got to understand, if you sit there and focus on demons, then you're going to bring that to you. Some of us that are part of this wake up, we got to deal with it. Okay? I've got one connected to me that's constantly communicating with me, infusing into my perception psychically. It's not as hard as you think. You see, what is psychic communication? Like if other entities want to put something into my head? Well, right now, for example, you have an auditory field around you, right? Maybe you have various sounds occurring in your room. Maybe you have a fan on, there's a TV in the different room on, which I would turn off, but, just different sounds going on. And you also have my voice, right? So I'm injecting my voice into your auditory perception. I'm adding to it. And you're decoding it and interpreting it with meaning. All right, well, psychic communication is the same thing. It's the same thing, except it's not utilizing your sensory apparatus of the eyes or ears. It's just injecting it directly into your brain's perception. But it's the same thing. It's the same communication. So I can look at something, right? They started using written words, like looking for subliminal messages one night, and it was really getting late. It was like 3 a.m. and I'm like, my eyes were getting blurry, and then it just manifested right on the picture. 3 a.m. eyes, go to bed. Objective reality. It stuck. It stayed there on the picture. People say, well, show me that picture. Why? For you will say, oh, you just did that yourself. There's no point in that. See, this is what you need to know, and why I wanted to introduce you to the concept of subliminal messages first. But it's not just Photoshop, people. It's etheric. They can psychically put words on things. It does it all of the time in front of me. Literally, man. That's why people be like, this is a matrix. It's well, no, it is illusory, yes. But you manifest as much as they do. It's just your beliefs that you can't that keep you from being able to do so. And right now, anyway, if you're not strong with the Spirit will keep you from being able to do that, just for safety. The Spirit will start to activate that ability in you when you start to connect to it. With me, it's touch and go, because remember, I have entities all over me, so if I'm weak with the Spirit, or they're, doing their cycles of trying to break my will or whatever, I'm not going to be manifesting very much, because if I could, then they could influence that, like they do to all of you anyway. Do you understand this consciousness plays a role in your very creation of your reality? So love will overcome that, and the beauty of that is when love overcomes their control of your manifestation, love will manifest out of love. And it's not going to hurt anybody. Do you understand that? So I can manifest out of love. And that's not going to hurt anybody. But I can't just do it, like it's just hard to explain. A lot of this sounds crazy to you right now. I understand that. A few years from now, it'll be a different story. Psychic communication is like the Jedi mind trick, except you don't speak it out loud. For example, if they want to put a thought in my head, they do it thinking of my voice. How hard is that? They just imagine my voice, and from the first person, I want to have cereal right now. So they'll think in my voice, in my head, I want to have cereal right now. Of course, their thoughts that they put in my head are much more sinister. But that's how you do it. You see, once you start to get a grip on that, once you start to learn to play that guitar, you start to recognize it. You start to say, okay, all right, so I'm still alive here, and I'm still me. You start to realize if I'm not thinking in terms of love and the Spirit, then people tend to torment me. Like I said in The Healing Begins Now, like anybody can be an agent. Yeah. They can start speaking to your negative ego, to push buttons, to try to attack skeletons in your closet, right? Connecting to the Spirit is very liberating, because one of the first few things it will show you is that it can read everything in your mind. So it's kind of stupid to lie, because, yeah, mankind may judge you, but the Spirit already knows people. It already knows. You'll see when you go through you'll know why Christ would say something like, "Forgive them, they know not what they do." Because he knew these things, all right, that their minds were being controlled. Even back then, yes. What do you think that whole thing was about? You can't do this without the Spirit. You can't. And that's what Christ would have been talking about as well when he said either you're going to build your house on a rock, which is love of the Spirit, the creative Spirit, or sand on the beach. It can be washed away. If you try to open up your psyche, like I'm telling you, and you're not basing it upon a desire to connect to the Spirit, then it can really mess with you. Because it would be so variable. Next thing you know, your own family members are taunting you. It's all dual meaning. Remember I told you about the scenario of two students getting alcohol, right? And then I said if you're psychic, you can change the meaning as you go. Next thing you know, everybody around you is coughing and clearing their throat and reaching up, touching their nose in response to your thoughts. And if you don't know how to control your mind, and you start thinking about negative things or consequences or this is going to happen, that's going to happen, then any entity attached to them, if you're trying to wake up, will anchor the negative things. If you're unaware of that, you'll attribute it to maybe it's your own father or maybe it's a friend and you're going to get mad at the friend. Well, hold on a minute. You seriously need to understand something. It's not your friend's fault, and their conscious mind is probably unaware of it. The way to learn this quickly is to assume they can read your mind, that everybody you talk to can read your mind. And be mindful of your thoughts. Constantly be aware of what you're thinking, and look at how they act. What nonverbal gestures are they making? Are those anchors? Reinforcers? Look for dual meaning in what they say. That's why psychology tells you anybody who does that's crazy or obsessive. Yeah, because they don't want you to get a feel for your own language. I'm telling you, that's how it is. It's dual meaning. You may have a conscious conversation going, but what about the dual meaning? I look at the guy with the pizza. There you go. But it was really speaking to the thoughts of the other guy. But that can happen in conscious conversation, a dialogue between two people without other people around. You can say something that would contextually apply to the conversation, but it can also apply to your thoughts if you're aware of your own thoughts. I don't know, some spiritual people call this a rite of passage because you can't be irresponsible with this. And I was kind of, mixed about letting people know this. Because I know they're going to be, you see, who are the people that are vulnerable? The irony would be the psychology students or the intellectual debate-minded people. If they open up to this, it'll rock them. But maybe some of that's good. I had to go through that. You see, I'm telling you this because I myself, I had nobody holding my hand, and I still don't. I don't have anybody that can tell me or guide me, really, consciously through this, other than the Spirit. The creative Spirit does it. It does a wonderful job in its way. But no person is holding my hand through this. What I'm doing for you is kind of holding your hand through it. I'm telling you what to expect and how it works. And I had to go through all this. I didn't look it up somewhere. I'm not regurgitating this stuff to you. This is my learned understanding with a strong foundation from the ground up. Through the experiences, the ups and downs, the trials and errors of it. I'm not a simple-minded person. When I tell you that these things are happening, it didn't happen once or twice, and I'm like, oh, this is what it is, and then I come to you with it. No, I've been going through this understanding for over a year. Over a year before I came out with this for you now. To make sure that I understood it as much as I could before I told anybody about it. This is like the Earth's normal response to an infection. And it has to get the word out. The truth then, if you haven't figured it out yet, is that I'm you. See, in your mind, You have blockages to your own spirit, certain scars and shame and guilt and belief systems. It's not that your spirit isn't there, you're not allowing it to influence your mind. You're just not doing it, you're not allowing it. So, it's not going to give up, it's going to come to you through a different route. It's going to circumvent that and come at you from a different direction. So, you're hearing it from me now. I am you telling you what you will not receive from your own spirit inside of you. I am you telling you what you are not getting from yourself. And that sounds weird until you start to see for yourself. Philosophy is one thing, functionality is another thing. The Healing Begins Now was putting the idea out there for you, philosophically, theoretically. Now, we're going to make it functional. Why is this important? Because, much like you spread the information of whatever the pathology is of your own body during a state of disease, the earth is doing now, and the spirit is doing all of that. So, why do you need to know this language? First of all, on the internet, it's mostly disinformation. Now, I know what's happening, but I'm not going to tell you, because that's giving you a fish. Life can tell you. You can ask these crucial questions. Who is running the world? Who is really doing this? Is this theory right? Is this wrong? A bird will tell you. A dog will bark in response to it. Listen, you think I'm kidding now, I know. Or that I'm somehow delusional, right? You never heard the word delusional until it was forced down your throat. Does that mean that delusions don't exist? No. They do exist. Delusions are only if you have usually with trauma, where there's strong emotional energy attached to an experience, a thought, a fear, a concept. And it's so strong, the emotion, that your mind keeps that thought in motion, that bubbles up at the surface there. And it's so traumatic to you or so emotionally activating that it's always up there. And so as you go throughout your day by day, and experience different things, and that thought's there, you start to attach it to those different things. And your brain will actually undergo what's called neuroplasticity, or it will rewire to accommodate that thought. Now you're just on autopilot. See, entities can do the same thing. Mind control can do the same thing. They can give you a true hallucination, or show you something true. But if it's traumatic to you, you will rewire your brain, and now they just got you on autopilot. They don't even have to do that anymore. You do it for yourself. So they can create a delusion. Mind control agents are experts at creating delusions. What's going on the internet? It's like that movie Naked Gun 2.5, where Leslie Nielsen was the umpire in that game, in the baseball game, and he was trying to keep that third out from happening, and there were already 2 outs, and the batter hit a pop-up, and the catcher was going to catch it. He didn't want that third out to happen. So he grabbed all those baseballs and threw them up in the air all at once, and now the catcher couldn't find the original ball. There was so many in the air that he didn't know which one to catch. That's what they're doing on the internet. Do you think the people that run the world don't know that that's your primary medium that you're using to try to spread the information? As if they wouldn't know that? You think they're not going to come on there as the average Joe? Some agent doesn't know how to make a YouTube account? They come on there looking like the average Joe, telling you what you need to know? What am I supposed to do? Pick apart each disinformation agent? Oh my God, there's so many of them. That's useless. That would be going backwards. And the spirit, that's what it's saying. That is the wrong way to go about it. Rather, teach them how to find the truth. See, the benefit of knowing this language and communicating with life again is that people can't lie to you. You'll know what I mean. Once you're able to land your fingers down on that chord, you'll know what I mean. Can't lie to you. And life will confirm it. If you have a serious thought that's important for you to direct your path, be mindful of that thought. Did a dog suddenly start barking in your neighborhood? And then you'll think to yourself, was that in response to me? Roof! Are you really responding to me? Roof! You know, what you're going to find is probably what happened to me. I tried to disprove it so much that finally the messages I got, like from people through their dual meaning, was, look, either you're going to figure it out or you're not. How long is this going to take you? You're freaking paranoid. Because I wouldn't believe it. I thought I was, dreaming all of you up. I thought, this can't be. And finally there were certain people, through their ego, the larger mind said to me, how long is this going to take you to realize this is really happening? And it's normal, and this is how life communicates. Either you're going to figure it out or forget it, was basically what I got. I'm like, all right. So I went with it. I mean, I'm serious, man. You can talk to animals. I got to know my cat because of this. My cat can read my mind. And even my cat was, after a while, stopped responding to that. He's like, same type of response in the way that we talk. Look, are you stupid? I'm showing you that I can read your mind. It's not hard. We all do this, that type of thing. I'm serious, people. That it worked out. Smack your tail once for yes and twice for no. And I didn't even have to speak out loud. I don't have to speak out loud. He can read my mind. And I learned a lot about my cat. He let me know through yes and no answers. I would kind of, in psychic communication, I would know what questions to ask based upon reading his mind, or sensing how to ask the right question to communicate. You'll know when it happens for you. The way he explained it to me was this. He can read my mind. He knows some of my words. But that's not what he's responding to. He's responding to the intent. It's clearer for him if I think in pictures or just concepts without words. It's more effective. Sometimes the larger mind speaks through him and he knows it. So they're fully aware. They're way more advanced than I am. I mean, animals a lot of them are just really in tune with this, okay? And he said also that his brain is not like mine. He has think of it like an Alzheimer's patient. He doesn't remember, if I say, remember last week when we had this specific conversation about this and this, Cosmo was like, no, I can't. I can't remember those details. I do have memories that are important to me, but details here and there, I'll forget. In 1 hour, I'll forget specific details like that. My brain can't do that like your brain. He recognizes that my brain has more memory. So animals are in the moment. And Cosmo's very aware of the entities around me, and that the spirit is working through me and guiding me through this, and that this is happening on the planet. He's fully aware of it. And it's not just Cosmo. I've talked to spiders a few times. A spider came on my bed. 2 years ago, I would have squashed it, but now I looked at him and I said, I'm fully aware that we're both components, larger. I didn't say it in language, it was just intention. Looked at the spider with an appreciation that it's animated, and that the same spirit animating it is a derivative of the spirit that is animating me, that type of thing. And the spider responded. I said, okay, with pictures and concepts, not words, if you're aware of that, move to your left. And all of a sudden, it would just move to its left and stop. And I'd say, okay. And the spider, same thing. It said, yeah, a spider can't remember from one moment to the next. It has knowledge. It can access the knowledge it needs. But its brain is not going to store memories. In other words, the way the spider made me understand was like this. It said, okay, well, if I say, remember me from yesterday, how we got along, it's not going to remember that. So if, say, I got along with a spider yesterday, and so it didn't bite me because I was in the moment connected with it, it's not going to have the memory the next day. So I can't sit there and rely upon its memory and think, oh, it won't bite me because now we're friends. It won't remember that. So you have to be very in the moment with animal beings. Okay? That's what I learned. It's very interesting. There was a spider that was ascending to the ceiling. You know how they hang on their web and they move up? I said, okay, I'm going to connect to it, focus my will on appreciation of it and communication with it. And then I intended for it to stop. It stopped. I said, okay, start. And it started. And I said, okay, stop. And it stopped. And then I let it go. I'm not going to sit there and make it jump through hoops. I mean, it would finally be like, fuck you. You know, I mean, I'm showing you. You get it yet? I mean, animals are really, you know, sometimes they'll ignore you. If you can't get it, they're like, okay, you're fucked up. See, because humans are fucked up to animals. Because you don't know this. This is what I'm trying to tell you. This is why in The Healing Begins Now, when I say that a deer can mean different things doing the same action, well, yeah. It's this type of psychic understanding that you work out in the moment with the animal. Once for yes, twice for no, whatever. But don't make the animal do something that isn't normal or natural for it. If it likes to bob its head like a duck, then let the duck bob its head. Ducks do that. I communicate with birds all the time. Deer like to flap their tail or stomp or lower their head and bring it back up. You don't need to speak out loud. In fact, the less speaking you do, the better. And you don't have to sit there and meditate. Just do it. If you try to focus and meditate, you can actually inhibit yourself. Inhibit the flow. Ironically, but it's the truth. Like playing a guitar. If you try too hard, sometimes you can screw it up. Anybody that gets into the zone, you hear about the zone, suddenly it's like your hand's playing the guitar all by itself. You're in a basketball game and suddenly you can't miss your shots. The zone. Well, this is what I'm talking about. This type of zone. The other day I was taking a shower and I opened up the curtain to take a shower and there was a spider sitting there. Like I said, 2 years ago I would have squashed it. Now I just calmly was patient. I intended through pictures that water is going to be coming out. I didn't want him to get hurt or killed, so he has to get out of the bathtub. Then I waited. I was patient for him to sense my energy and all of that. And then finally he just got up and went right in front of me and went to a wall right in front of me. But it was just, you know, a little, the outside of the bathtub, and stopped there. And I said, that's fine, as long as he was out of the bathtub. And then I went in and took a shower. Animals will respond to you. Can a spider tell you what's going on in the world? Yes, because of scalar reality. If the larger mind wants to communicate through the spider, it can. And the larger mind of Earth, which is a derivative of the spirit and the whole thing, knows what's going on. Do you understand? So when I say you can get the truth from a duck, from a deer, from a frog, from a spider, this is what I'm talking about. The larger consciousness of the planet knows what's going on. On the internet, you're hit with 10 millisecond flashes to program your mind. I made this video called The Walking Stick. I had my picture on there. They put freak under my left eye. It was so obvious. F-R-E-A-K. And that was it. You know, I tried to show my picture to be diligent for people, but not if they're going to do that. You know, I can't have you listening to this if you're looking at a picture that's telling you to think freak about me or crazy or this or that. That's why I changed The Healing Begins Now, because if there are words on that that are getting in the way, I looked at that, the stats for it. Over 1,000 people listened to part 1, but under 150 people made it through all of the 27 parts. And it dropped off. It just got lower and lower. And, you know, people like Chris Crocker get 8 million views of his video. I'm giving out good information. And do you know that I have like 280 subscribers or something like that? Not even all of my subscribers got through that whole series. So I knew something was up, so I had to take my pictures off. But it isn't me that matters anyway. This idea that, you know, some people talk to me like I said before, you're like a saint. No, man, I'm a therapy. I'm a student of the Creator. I'm trying everything I can to reconnect to it. You know, the creative spirit is the teacher. I am not. I get the lessons and I relay them to you. But I am not special. I'm no more special than you. I was totally corrupt for most of my life because of the demonic control of my mind throughout my life. And I thank the Spirit for pulling me out. And yes, it's not easy, and it's up and down, and sometimes it's very traumatic. When I was first awakened, my whole life turned upside down, man. You don't understand how your reality can be changed. Literally changed. Not just third dimensional either. And like I told you before, I had nobody holding my hand through that. I had to work through it with the creative spirit. And it's tough. It's tough. I'm not telling you this stuff's going to be easy. Because it isn't. The earth is under an infection. You're going to have some resistance. But what you will find as you start to learn to play this guitar of life is that consistently, the more you connect to love and the spirit, the less this type of thing antagonizes you. You already have good and bad in your mind. You already have positive and negative experiences in your life. When you open up your perception, yes, it may give access to entities to try to bug you through dual meaning, through people. But you also get the positive too. So you're expanding. You're still, the mix is pretty much the same anyway. All right? You're expanding your consciousness. You gotta know. You gotta know now, because this is how the information about how to fix this and what you need to do is going to be spread. Through the language of life, not the language of the internet, where you're not sure what is right and what is wrong. Because humans are very easily possessed by entities at any given time, and their mind taken over at any given time, seeking humans for your primary source of information will not be wise. Okay? Because demons are very crafty, and they can mimic good intentions. But when you're out in nature, there's so much life out there, they can't cover that many past receivers. You know what I'm saying? They just can't do it. And don't accept one answer. You'll start to be in tune with nature's response. A crack in the ice in that right moment. The crack in a tree. All these things you'll see. Your whole reality is you on a larger level. So it will respond to you. You've just got to know that. You have to open up to that. And you have to play with it for a while, because at first you'll be like, no. And then it'll be like, oh my God, this can't be. Pretty soon you realize it's not coincidence. All these knocks you're hearing in my house right now, those are entities speaking. Those are spirits. There's a lot of spirits around me, and they're not all demons. They're involved with this as well. And they're not all demons. They're involved with this as well. Think of it like if you like scientific protocol, fine. I mean, it's only logic to say that if the question's very important, then perhaps it's good if you ask that question to nature at least 100 times over a week to see what answer is most consistent as you learn this language. Don't just take one or two responses. All right? Just feel it out. Get used to it. This is the language of life. And like I said, this is the origin of neurolinguistic programming. Studying neurolinguistic programming would not teach you this. However, seeing and going through and learning this will make something like neurolinguistic programming a snap. You'll understand it completely. You won't have to study it. In fact, the information about neurolinguistic programming is so dumbed down and so stripped down. You learn the language of life and you'll catch that all of the time. I'm telling you. Why is this the most important thing, though? Because after you get through your period where you're like, this is crap and all that, and you start to see it happening, then you start to get your answers, you start to get a feel for it, you're going to realize the most important thing, that the creative spirit of the universe is real. And once you know God is real, well, this is where we're trying to go, you see. Once you know God is real, then, and only then, will you be able to say, oh, And see, a lot of people, they say, oh, I can't connect to the Creator right now. I just can't seem to do it. But you're not understanding that a lot of your mind does not want to. You don't want to, quote, give up your addictions and all these other things that you think are fun. Most of them illusion. You can't see it yet. When you get the evidence you need through learning this language, then you'll say, like I did a year and a half ago, okay, I'm on your team. I'm on your team. What do I got to do? I choose to do what you need me to do. When that happens, and you can't do, see, if you do it right now, yeah, I choose to do what you need to do. You know, God knows your whole mind. And if there are parts of your mind that are disagreeing with that, then it won't do it yet. When you get this evidence through understanding how life communicates with itself, then you'll know at that moment, that salient event, where you're going to be like, okay, I can't deny this anymore. And when you see that it's all around you, logic will tell you, based upon how it's answering your questions and what needs to be done, it will be undeniable, and then you'll be able to, for each of you, it will be individual, and the circumstances will be different. But when you make that decision, okay, I'm doing what you want me to do, I'll go through your rehabilitation, your therapy, your guidance, whatever, then the Spirit will lift your veil. When your veil is lifted, you'll know it. There's no reason for me to describe it right now. But put it this way, people will suddenly be asking you, how do you see these subliminal messages? I can't see them. You're right. See, I couldn't see them for the first 33 years of my life either. A lot of them are etheric. And when your veil is lifted, not only will you be able to see that, you'll be able to change your perception. Most of you will be shown a demon. You'll go through a procedure, you'll see what it is when it happens, of the altering of your dimension, so you see its nature, and you'll have to deal with that. It needs you to deal with that, kind of like flooding in psychiatry. If somebody has a phobia or a problem, the Spirit is likely to flood you right in the beginning, especially with this language, the whole thing. When your veil is lifted, you'll be flooded, because you're going to have to face your phobias. And so your life will be coordinated until you realize that the only way that you can deal with your phobias is through the love of the Spirit. And you'll be taught that. Hearing me say it won't work. You have to go through it, and you'll see that. Each person has a different phobia, or many of them. And it knows what to do, and it won't overdo it. It'll do what you need done. When your veil is lifted, it's kind of psychic. You call it psychic. I get a kick out of that. That's like two cells in my body saying they're psychic with each other. Yeah, okay, they're both me. But okay, if you want to call it psychic, fine. Whatever. But we'll use psychic to communicate here. That's what happens. All right? It will put two and two together for you. And you will be an active participant in that. You'll see. You will just know. You will not be able to be lied to anymore. You turn on the TV, you will see. You will see 666 everywhere. You will see what you could not see before. And you'll see the the craziness of someone mindlessly mouthing prayer out of a Bible, looking for God in a Bible when it's so active and alive right now. When you go through your lessons, and say you're into that for a year, you'll understand everything Christ was saying. You'll understand it so well, at least I do, it's almost like you're saying, yeah, that guy got it. And you'll see that, a lot of things were omitted. There's a document someone sent me recently, like 3 weeks ago, that I read for the first time. I haven't really read much of what Christ was talking about, because I was getting the lesson from the Creator, man. I stayed away from that, really. But it was called the Talmud of Emmanuel, J-M-M-A-N-U-E-L. And it's some of the book of Matthew, I guess, and then other things. I felt like I was reading my personal journal All the things that I knew they were hiding in the Bible were in this. I was reading in an Adobe Acrobat reader, and it would have different sections. You only see one page at a time, and sometimes he would get questions from people. And these questions, you can tell they're just from people that their veil has not been lifted. They're just not connected. They don't have eyes or ears. And they're like asking him these questions, and I'm just thinking to myself, oh man, these people, they just have no eyes, no ears, and they're just, what a joke, you can't even answer that question the way they're asking it to be proven. And I'm like, what did he say? And I scroll down, he's like, you have no eyes, you have no ears. I'm like, oh my gosh. Because once you're knowledge, you need to be prepared for this. When the Creator lifts your veil, your intelligence is going to skyrocket in a lot of ways. As far as your awareness and what's going on, it will make it very difficult for you to try to communicate with the average person, because their questions will be so crude, even though in the mainstream they're considered academic and intellectual. You'll see people try to use words that they think are smart and how they structure their sentences and following these protocols. Pretty soon they'll just be like an open book to you, and you will become tongue-tied, because the knowledge that you will have will be so far above what they think is knowledge, being a, quote, intellectual, that you won't know how to deal with them. All I can tell you at this point, I tried that, it just always turns into arguments, because these people refuse to connect to the Spirit, or they think they are. I don't know, but it's like I'm talking about apples, and they interpret it as oranges, and then want to argue with me and say, it's not oranges, it's pears. You prove to me why it's oranges. Well, I'm not talking about oranges or pears, buddy. I'm talking about apples. And I can't talk about apples in the language of oranges in debate against pears. I just can't do that. I'm telling you, I keep coming back to this. Discrediting? Will they try to discredit me? Sure. Of course, man. Why do you think I keep telling you, don't seek me for the truth? If they make you hate me, and you attach everything I'm telling you to me, well, they've just programmed your mind now, haven't they? Now all the truth I've told you, it's linked to me in your head. I told you, it's linked to me in your head. Why do you think they discredit in the first place? I'm telling you, I'm not your teacher. The creative spirit is. Let's see them discredit that. Especially once you learn this language, it will be undeniable. And once you fully start to connect to the Spirit and work with it and learn to play that guitar, forget it. They're not going to discredit it. Demons may do that through people. They may use the neuro-linguistic programming that they use, but animals and nature and life, and if you're smart with your questions and ask the same question over a period of time and get many, many answers to see, you'll see. All right? You must look at what I'm doing here. I'm not taking the credit for any of this. Do you understand that? It's the creative spirit, and I'm a happy student. I'm a patient man. I was fucked up in the head my whole life. I admit that, and it's correcting that every day, and it's a struggle, but I'm happy about that. Very. What I'm trying to tell you to do is seek the creative spirit. I'm not trying to formulate some group, some cult. I'm not asking you for money. I'm not telling you to become a portal for a demon. None of that. I'm telling you to seek the Spirit. Where is the Spirit? It is both inside of you and outside of you. Scalar reality. If you seek only outside of you, you will fail. If you seek only inside of you, you will fail. If you seek inside of you and correlate that to what's outside of you, you will succeed. If you do it in a loving manner. Because that which is truly inside of you, underneath your ego, that is you, is of love. Arguing and debating and trying to memorize facts and figures, it's not going to help. And that's why it's very important that I tell you these things. Why do you think I'm not pumping Alex Jones or telling you details about this and this and, oh, the Illuminati did this back in 1930? Now forget that, man. Why do you think I'm not talking about 9/11? I'm not going to tell you about 9/11. Nope. I will tell you, just like Leslie Nielsen throwing up all those baseballs, you must ask yourself. I'll tell you what, do what I'm telling you to do. Connect to the creative spirit. Before you can do that, you're obviously going to need proof of its existence. Learning this and how to communicate with life is the best way I can lead you to that. All right? And then you go ahead and ask the squirrel in the backyard or the bird, what is propaganda and what isn't? What do you need to focus on and what don't you need to focus on? You think God can't communicate with you? You think it won't be able to effectively put in your mind what you need to know and use life to do so? Love its other creations. It's time for you to learn from them. It's time for you to learn and become humble before the Spirit and all of its creations. Meaning, you're going to have to be able to become humble to a bunny rabbit, to a squirrel, to a deer, to a bird, and admit to them that you're insane. You may have a larger cerebral cortex, sure, but you must humble yourself before God's creations that are connected to God and thrive off of God's spirit and love. Humbling yourself before them is to humble yourself before God. Humbling is not getting down and bending over and taking it up the behind. It created you. Humbling means knowing. Knowing. Knowing what? You'll see. You'll see. Deep down you want something that knows all that you don't know. And it will always be honest with you. You won't have a problem taking direction from it. Because it's not an issue of having a problem with authority. This isn't authority. This is that which creates everything, man. Without it, you would not be. And it created you so that you could have free will, your conscious experience. Like I told that girl tonight. I said, it's interesting. Because of my awakening and because of what I'm going through, I know why we've talked. I know the reasoning behind it. She understood that too. I said, but you see, we also had a conscious conversation. We had an individual experience that happened at the same time. It's my choice if I want to focus on the conscious conversation or look and see the deeper meaning of how it's coordinated. I told you in The Healing Begins Now. You can see yourself as the floating finger if you want. You can see yourself as the right finger, the left finger, all at once. That's your choice. And that's why I use this learning to play guitar thing. At first, you're always going to be looking for it. And you have to be careful. Don't create a delusion over this, okay? But you'll find as you kind of come into the swing of things that you don't have to do that all day. You've got a right to live. You've got a right to go out and enjoy yourself. Yeah, the problem is that through media, you're going to see that it's all satanic. You're going to see that it's all to control your mind. So your ability to have fun by going to movies and all of these other things is going to be fundamentally limited. But interacting with people, socialization and activities and all these other things, that's part of life and expressing living. And the more active that you are, the stronger your spirit anyway. And you don't have to sit there and read into what everybody says all the time. First of all, you won't be trying to do that once you learn how. But you don't always have to be focusing on that. That's your choice. You know what I mean? How many questions can you have? There are crucial questions. But you need to learn to try to take control of your mind back. And be disciplined with it. And turn it on and off as you want. You can sit there and talk and have a normal conversation. Sure. You can look at it after and see what it was from a larger perspective also. I'll tell you, when you connect to the creative spirit, your life will become anything but boring. You'll have more interaction in the woods than you are used to having with all kinds of stimulus. Right now, when I say get off the TV, most people don't. They're kind of maybe believing that it might control your mind. Yeah, wait till the Spirit lifts your veil, you'll see why I didn't bother telling anybody. Some things you just need to see, man. When your veil is lifted, magazines are going to look a little different to you. Now, I took baby steps with people, the subliminal messages. That is nowhere near the reality of it. But I'm not going to get into that. The majority of people are completely mind-controlled from the subconscious, from moment to moment. They don't even know it. They don't even perceive it. So, as you wake up and come out of the state where you were mind-controlled, it will be, rough waters for a while. Expect that. But you must build your house on the rock, not the sand. That rock is the creative, loving spirit of everything, the essence of life. Love is life. A lot of you will actually be scared of normality, that you're actually part of a spirit. Oh, this is traumatic. I think it's funny because I laugh at myself. I mean, I keep thinking of that William Shatner scene in Amazon Women from the Moon. They're all beeping and flashing. I mean, because if you really open up to it, everywhere you look, people are giving you subconscious responses to your thoughts. And I can see certain people going through that and just like, but that's when you try to recalibrate. And I'd say pray to God, but that's not the way to say it. Most people don't know what prayer is. You don't have to mouth words, man. You just have to focus on why you love. Now, the biggest block to God is guilt and shame. That is the huge one. You're in a situation where they've got you duped into this reincarnation cycle. You get entities and mind control manipulating your mind to do things your spirit would never do. I don't care if you're a serial killer on death row right now. You didn't do any of that. You'll know when your veil lifts who is really doing that and how they're doing it. Forgive them, they know not what they do. Yeah, entities, cancer, I told you about it, and healing begins now. That's theory right now. Wait till you see. Get rid of your guilt and shame. Some of the most loving spirits are hit hard early in life to take away their self-esteem, try to pervert them, corrupt them, make them hate themselves so they can tabulate everything. And you have got to understand your personality and your ego. You're like Russian dolls. You don't just have one body, really. You're like a body inside of a body inside of a body. Well, the body, the energy body inside of your body right now, that's where your mind is. That's where your ego is. People say, no, that's in the brain. No. The brain's kind of like a radio receiver. A radio receiver receives the signal. And so it may process that signal to carry out functions in the body or interpret it and kind of coordinate your mind with your eyes and ears and tongue and nose and your physical senses that'll light up on an MRI because of that. But your mind is not in the brain. Even if the brain lights up during certain thoughts, it is a conjugate to your mind, but that is not where your mind is. So, when your energy body leaves your body, your mind is there. The trick is they dupe you. They either come to you as God and tell you how bad you were, and don't tell you that demonic entities did all that shit through you, and then give you this ultimatum. Well, now you have to reincarnate to learn your lesson because of this, this, and this, and now you must suffer all of the things that you did. And they never tell you that it was a demon doing it through you. So now you become a victim. Do victims tend to become victimizers later in life? Oh, yeah. So now they got you again. And the idea is to keep you in this cycle, to break your will over time. I've told you about that in The Healing Begins Now. So you need to know for yourself rather than hearing some guy like me tell you. Okay? Learn this language to life. I know this was a lot to take in. Again, I know. But this is what any spiritual elder knew. And let me give you a little hint. Time is not a factor. For example, you could watch a video of something that's like 5 years old, 20 years old, and that channel is open. In other words, a lot of people weren't psychically trying to talk to that person on the video. They'll respond to you the same way. This is how I learned it, man. I had to go through it. Reach up and touch your nose, I would think, and they'd reach up and do that. Grab your left earlobe, they'd reach up and do that. They'd run their hand through their hair. But they won't jump through hoops for you. It's like either you get it or you don't. That's how I learned that demons were controlling women in porn, while their spirit was in bondage underneath. Like I said, anything can come up and mold that clay. The ego is the clay, and different things can speak through it. So that's why people can be conflicting, do you understand? Sometimes a demon could speak through someone's ego, and sometimes their spirit can. Duplicity, that's where it all comes from. That's what the Spirit showed me. It had me watch porn on purpose and said, look, oh yes, you were masturbating to that, now look. It lifted my veil and showed me through my mind's eye what was happening. Demons were controlling her body like a puppet and the man, and her spirit was in bondage, saying, I'm being tortured right now. They're controlling these bodies like puppets so that humans watch it and think that other humans want to do this. There are subliminal messages saying, this is hot, and I love this, and all of this, and then people are like, oh, yes, this is obviously other people are doing this, and I mean, they're totally destroying the connection to the Spirit. But again, I'm not going to even go off on that. I'm not going to answer questions about that either. Either you choose to connect to the creative Spirit and have your veil lifted, or you don't. I'm going to stop answering questions. Specifics like this, if it's something that you can find out by connecting to the Spirit that creates everything. Do you understand that? I'm not your teacher. I'm not going to make it so you're dependent upon me for your answers. That's ridiculous. Absolutely stupid. It would be ridiculous. I am no longer going to answer interrogative questions about what I'm saying if you were stop being lazy and wanted to connect to the Creator, if it's something you could find out by doing that. And of course you can find out everything by doing that. Because all I'm doing is going against the creative Spirit by doing that. You obviously need to connect to the creative Spirit. This is very, very important. Okay? And if I keep answering people's questions, well, how do you see the subliminal messages? No, done. Enough. I gave a pretty good presentation in that YouTube video of subliminal messages, almost 30 minutes, explaining that. The rest is up to you connecting to the creative Spirit. If you really want to see the subliminal messages, I mean the real ones, you have to connect to the creative Spirit. Read the Talmud of Emmanuel. Now, even though there's some disinformation in there, even Christ said in that, they will try to call me God and take my teachings to promote their occult practices. That's Christianity. He gives the credit to the creative Spirit. And if you're hooked on religion mind control, then Christ gives you an out. He says, denying me will be forgiven. Denying the creative Spirit of life will not. He gives you an out. So if you think that you need to accept His name, which you don't know what it was anyway, as your Lord and Savior, first of all, that's worshiping the dead. His personality was not your Lord and Savior, and He was claiming the whole time. Ironically, I can't believe I read this like 3 weeks ago. I felt like I was reading my journal. He didn't take credit for it either. He's saying the same thing. People say, what do you think? Are you saying you're Christ? Oh my gosh, you're not getting this. No, I'm saying we have the same teacher. Why would the truth change? You heard that soon you will all be as He was. That doesn't mean you're going to have His personality. That means connecting to the creative Spirit. It's available to all of you. Do you understand that? And He said, He's not special. Not without the creative Spirit, He's not. If you want to call it Father and, the jargon used back then, fine. But he talked about the Creator Spirit. And he even said, any group that calls themselves God's children, that's ridiculous. And I had been saying that. I mean, that's, to be God's chosen ones? No, that's a cancerous. Anybody who says that, any group who thinks they're better than other life, when Christ wouldn't even think he was better than a spider. That's... When your veil's lifted, there will be no more questions. You will know who is doing what. You will know. And they cannot discredit other people. Because the truth is, the answer is right in front of your face, and it always has been. You're just under mind control to not see it. It's kind of like cloaking them. When the creative spirit lifts your veil, you'll know, and it will be very emphatic with you. This is why you need to know the true language of life. You need to connect to the Creator Spirit. Then your answers will be revealed to you. All that was hidden will be shown to you. It's more than philosophy, man. I mean, I'm talking right now. Right now. Right now. And your frustration will be with those who are still living under a veil. It won't be your inability to deal with it so much as the fact that others cannot see or hear. Having eyes and having ears means to be connected to the creative spirit and to know this language, and you can only functionally use this language through the creative spirit. Then it will put knowledge into you, and you will know. You will just know. No matter how glib somebody is talking to you, no matter how strategic, even if they're using neurolinguistic programming, you'll catch it from moment to moment. You'll know. Now, one word of advice, okay? When you're dealing with humans and you're thinking, oh gee, I'm reading into what everybody says to me. Well, remember, that's your choice. You don't have to always be looking for it, and I'm not saying reading into it. But if you have a significant other or some sort of spouse that you live with or someone you're around all the time, please listen to this together. Alright, so you're not bugging them. If they don't know of this and you're sitting there and say, oh, you just said this to me and that to me, you're going to drive them nuts. And another thing, their conscious mind won't be aware of it. I got news for you. You'll think it is because they'll be so precise in response to your thoughts. You'll think that it's a body snatcher or something. Some alien took them over and is reading your mind, or the demon's reading your mind, because it is so precise. You'll see you're not conforming what's happening to some sort of belief system and delusionally making it true in your mind. No, it'll be far too specific, and you'll know what I'm talking about when it happens, okay? But if you say it to their conscious mind, your spirit just told me this, or the demon around you just told me this, or an entity through you, or the spirit, the grand spirit, the total creative spirit just told me this, they're not going to know it. Not yet. Not until people repair a little bit more. But right now, their conscious mind will think you're absolutely nuts. So, if you're with somebody, or you have a partner that you live with, listen together so at least you're both aware of what I'm saying, so that you don't upset each other. And don't nag on each other all the time. Wisdom is not overreacting to everything that happens. If you're going to sit there every minute and be like, you just coughed in response to my thought, okay, when you start to learn this, maybe that will be interesting for you and you'll want to bring it up. But people, if you get a couple months into it and you keep harping on each other, you're not wise. You should have learned by now that it's just natural, just part of your existence. And you're going to go through stages. You're going to look around, and sometimes you'll start laughing because you realize that everything you look at is you on one level. And you'll see other parts of you arguing with themselves. It's like I said tonight. I told that girl that she meant me because she needed to get over the fight with her husband. I knew that inherently was put in my head. Because their argument, their tension, their anxiety has a scalar effect on the larger existence that we make up. And it's just that simple. It's not that you're looking at a mirror of yourself all the time. Often, it is the Spirit speaking directly to you. Learn this, be diligent with it, and then you will see proof of the Spirit. That will give you what you need to feel comfort and confidence and knowledge of it, to rejoin with it. You'll know when that happens. Oh yeah, you'll know. Some things I just haven't told you because it's not worth it. It's not worth it. I'm going to be more limited in my responses with email because I want to get off the internet here. It's too poisonous. It's too poisonous. Just sitting there online like that is poison. With the constant subliminal barrage in every way, people's minds being hijacked by the negative entities to want to argue with me and all of that. I want to help, man, but I'm not going to carry the whole world on my shoulders. So you all need to be proactive. Like I said, I'm not the teacher, I'm the student. If you refuse to learn this, then the teacher will go away. Alright? So, meaning, if you hear me now, and you say, well, John, tell me this or tell me that, or you don't do it, you don't do the keys to God like I told you in The Healing Begins Now. You don't activate your spirit. You don't activate the love in you, and you don't become aware of your surroundings. You know, hey, what else can I tell you? You're saying to the Spirit, no thanks. And at that point, I can't help you. The creative Spirit loves you. Love it back. Let it teach you. I cannot stress that more. And understand, you think I'm kidding, but once your veil is lifted, the whole consciousness knows, including the demonic, cancerous consciousness. It knows. You'll see what I mean when that happens. Then it will try to discredit you. Now, ironically, the ones with the strongest spirits are probably the ones that have deviated in many ways in their life, because they had to do that. They know who's here on behalf of the Creator as a new spirit, because you light up, you shine bright, and they know right away, and they come after you early to try to get you, to possess you, and corrupt you, and do all of these things. Why? Because they know that it's very likely that you would speak out. Is that too hard to figure out? So they have to screw with you. They have to get you to deviate and do things that society is conditioned to point their finger at you for, so as to keep you from speaking out. The flip side to that is once you know the creative spirit, once it comes to you and basically says without words, bang, I am, and you'll know what I mean, you're not going to care what people say about you. Okay? But just know that suddenly, like a football being thrown to a running receiver, two lines intersecting, the discrediting is the same way. Remember, time, past, present, future is not what you think it is. Things just suddenly show up. However, you will be armed with, you won't be armed against men, because mankind is, the majority is just under huge mind control. When you see it for yourself, you'll know what I'm saying. Okay? You can't keep them from discrediting you. You just can't. But you won't care. You won't care. Because one moment, one microsecond, with the powerful, commanding love of the Creator who says, I know you were duped. I know that they were doing it through your mind, and your spirit is innocent, and you're learning, and you're rehabilitating, and you've made that choice with me. It is my opinion that matters. Do not worry. Just don't turn from me. It will have your back, and I'm telling you, to have God have your back, that's not a bad deal. You hear what I'm saying? Forget what people think of you. You've heard it before. He who is free of sin cast the first stone. All right? It's the insanity that has been created and stirred up in humankind. Forget what they think about you. Just love the creative spirit. I'm telling you. No matter how weird it gets, no matter how, and you'll be tested too. I was. Things might be allowed to happen to you. And you'll find that you'll seek answers. When I was first awakened, it was quite traumatic. I tried to handle it. I'm going to buy tourmaline, and I'm going to buy this crystal and that crystal and orgone. Yes, I've tried orgone. Didn't work. The whole thing, man. I need to talk to a psychic. I need to go see this or that. Why are you going through all that? Why is it allowing you to go through that? Because you're going to find there's only one way to deal with it. Over and over, no matter how variable the circumstance, there is only one way to deal with it. The creative spirit of everything. And so, things may be very uncomfortable at times, but you'll see why it's necessary, because you need to overcome this reality. If you are dependent upon the positive opinion of you from mankind, then you are incredibly vulnerable to their negative opinion. Do you understand opinion? Do you understand that? Because if you are hoping to get positive approval, a fan base, people that love you to define who you are, then their hate for you will also define who you are and where you go. Rather, detach from both, love the creative spirit. That means you will appreciate all the creations anyway and love them in the moment. But you should not, and never ever should, need their approval to define your creation when they did not create you. The creative spirit did. And it's active now. Things are going to change. I'm doing everything I can to guide you to it and try to protect you by keeping you away from this organized religion. However, I don't know if Christ existed, but a lot of the things that he said, you are going to find out for yourself that they are true. You will finally understand the parables. And you will know that it's the lesson that mattered, not his name. Jesus is the way. No, his lesson was the way. If his name was the way, what were the lessons for then? Why didn't he just come and say, yeah, accept Jesus Christ, your Lord and Savior. Okay, thanks a lot. Take care. His lessons and his demonstration of integrity. He didn't die for your sins. He died because of them. To try to demonstrate that he loves the creative spirit of everything more than his own personal comfort. That's how beautiful the creator spirit is. More specifically, that's how beautiful its intentions are. The satanic cancerous consciousness is discrediting God by discrediting you. If you hate yourself and everybody else, and arrogance is not self-love, if you hate everybody, then that is the result of discrediting God, because you are God's creation. Your body may or may not be, but your spirit is. And if they convince you somehow to hate yourself because you don't know how mind-controlled you are, see, if you don't wake up and connect to the creative spirit, you will never be able to forgive yourself. You can't, because you won't know the incredible depths of mind control or how it works. The creative spirit will show you that. Once you see it, you will free yourself from guilt. When you free yourself from guilt, you free yourself from shame. When you free yourself from shame, then you can love everything you see. You see, freeing yourself of guilt and shame does not give you this mindset of, oh, I can do anything I want. Oh no. Quite the opposite. See, then you'll have love in you, and when you have love in you, you can't hurt anybody. And it's a battle. It's up and down. You will have bad days and good days, and if you have addictions, you will overcome them, get them back, overcome them. You'll struggle as you reconnect. That's just the way it is. You don't need 10 commandments. Not if you're connected to the Spirit, as that will just be normal. Now, opening yourself up to the language of life is going to be a challenge. But that challenge will come to you on purpose. Because your spirit is both inside and outside, part of reconnecting to the Creator is raising the spirit within you. That's where you confirm it with your own spirit, your own feelings about it. That's where you start to see where you're at in your lessons, in your therapy. If you're always relying on the creative spirit to come in and save you from the outside, when it's also inside, then you're not fully healing, are you? So you will run into situations where they taunt you. I can't even count the number of times where I've gotten threats here and there, and demons will speak to me through people, and I'm put into a situation where the creative spirit's just kind of sitting there. Let's see how you handle this. If you can't communicate with me on the outside, in the realm you're in, where else am I? Oh yeah, inside of you. Then afterwards it said, yes, okay, so you know that it's inside and outside of you. Your fears and discrediting all of my teachings to you right now will occur. It's a constant mind job. So part of your solidifying your connection with me is to see how you handle it when I'm not coming in to bail you out. Can you bail yourself out? The more you can do that, the stronger your foundation. And that's part of it, and I would expect it, okay? Fully expect that you're going to have up and down days. Because when you open up to this, the demonic element will try to take advantage of it. And some things are very scary. However, the love, when it lets you know, is incredible. Throughout your wake up and the lifting of your veil, you'll have lots of days where you just start bawling, crying your eyes out, not because of sadness. You only cry like that when the spirit just takes over your whole reality. You know, after you have a lot of severe lessons like that, then it comes back and lets you know. And it's so commanding, so loving, so able, that it just, you know, it's like, okay, I gotcha. You know, that type of thing. It's kind of spotting you. Does that make sense? Like a gymnast will have a spotter. Throughout your healing, it'll spot you. But it'll also have you try to do it on your own. Eventually, so it doesn't have to spot you anymore. So that you can do your gymnastics routine without a spotter. Then, that's when you have a full connection to the spirit. That's when you overcome your reality. That's when you overcome your dependence upon both positive opinions of you and negative contradiction to you. That's when you overcome the promise of a reward in heaven, as well as the threat of torture in hell. That's when you overcome your physical reality, your dependence upon it for your own value. That's where you have to tap into yourself. Knowing this language will propel you into that. But you need to connect to the creative spirit, okay? Also, I told you about finding the keys to the spirit. And the healing begins now. You must do that all the time. You must constantly be raising the spirit in yourself through that technique. All the time. Every day. You will find more correct answers, more correct guidance out in nature. The more you sit on the internet, the more you can be corrupted. The satanic consciousness is smart enough to take what it knows, just like it did with Christ even, or anybody that tells the truth. To pretend to be on that wavelength, to say a lot of what somebody who's telling you the truth will say, to lead the sheep away from the truth, to lead you to the slaughter. If you look at another person and say, oh, she can teach me, or oh, he can teach me, now you're not going to be seeking the creative spirit, which is always in the moment through life itself with this language. This is why I'm telling you this. If you look for a person, then you can be misled. The truth is inside of you and life altogether. And just because other people may mislead you, that has nothing to do with your appreciation for life and them. That's always in the moment. Disregard their ego. If you find that people are discrediting me or trying to tell you this or that about me, number one, pay it no mind. Because you cannot depend upon me. That would give you a false sense of security. Secondly, don't try to defend it. Don't argue with people if they talk bad about me. Don't do that. Because I won't do that anymore. challenge lies, but I will not attack a person. And if you don't understand that, then you didn't understand what I've been telling you in this upload. People say, oh, those people at Destiny Universe, they hate you. No, they don't. But those girls don't know me. They don't know me at all, and they don't hate me. And I don't hate them. Why would I? This is my whole point. Everybody is connected to this, some people more than others. They're what you're trying to heal. Understand that that girl will say, oh, he's crazy. Because her, you know what? Her conscious mind may not even be fully aware of these things. You've got to understand that. If I went up to her and said, yes, do you know that your spirit actually told me not to listen to you and that you're in bondage? Her conscious mind would probably be like, you're nuts. Psychic communication is way too fast for you to try to discuss it that way anyway. Just be mindful of it. Forget about that. Just, what do people need? They need to be needed. They need to be acknowledged. They need to be loved. Forget about their personality. Observe it. Have a conscious interaction with it, sure. But never forget that no matter how calloused one's personality may be, no matter how much they seem to hate you, no matter how hard-assed they are, inside is a child. Inside is a being that needs love. And if you succumb to the calluses in their personality, to the wiring and programming of their consciousness, then you deny them that love. You deny them. So no, I'm not debunking anybody. I'm not even debunking Destiny Universe, because I'll tell you, I have to go through challenges like that every day. Every day I'm trying to monitor my thoughts because demons will try to persuade me to look at it this way or that way. It's not easy. Now, I'm sure that girl from Destiny Universe is a very nice person. Why would she not be? It has nothing to do with any of the... Look, I've met a lot of Freemasons that are nice people. They're nice people. They're just under pressure. They know not what they do. Or they know not how to deal with what they're doing. And that's my goal, to try to enable everybody, not people that think they're righteous. I'm righteous as me. No. The Spirit is righteous. And quite honestly, this is not for a group of people to hear this and heal and then consider themselves to be above everybody else. That would be evil. This is for everybody. Everybody who can understand the English language. I don't care if you're a Satanist, if you're in the Illuminati, if you're a Jesuit. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I don't hate you any more than I hate myself. Do you understand that? Those are the people I want to influence anyway. I'm not coming to you like David Icke and saying, I'm not trying to persuade you. I wouldn't do that. You can give information without trying to persuade people. What? No, I am very much trying to persuade you. I don't need to use reverse psychology to tell you that I'm not, so that I can sit there and persuade you for 5 hours. And my target audience, it's the Satanists and the Illuminati and anybody that is really controlled by this. That's who I'm trying to help. And yeah, I understand they hate me. I do. As much as an alcoholic would hate me if I threw their alcohol away. I understand that. I've had addictions. I have them. I know. I'm not perfect, and they know I'm not perfect. Hopefully that will make me credible in their eyes, to see that I admit that I'm not perfect. And I'm not saying to them, I am more perfect than you. I'm saying, I'm struggling, man. I am struggling, but I found this loving spirit. I'm reconnecting to it, and I want you to do that as well. I'm speaking to demons right now. They say, oh, well, they're creations of darkness. Maybe. But wait a minute. There's a spirit that creates anything and everything. It's kind of like the story of Pinocchio. If a demon sees logic in what I'm saying, Not my ego, because it's over my head, but maybe it observes me. Perhaps there's something inside of a demon that says, you know, there's something to this. Don't think the creative spirit of everything can't transform that demon. But that is not your responsibility. No human can do that. And if you try that, you're going right into the spider's web. Do not try to argue with a demon or intellectualize with a demon. They're way over your head. They have access to various points of your mind all at once, and your dimension. You're over your head when you do that, and they will not be able to resist taking control of your mind. A demon can't resist that, because it's too easy. It's just way too easy. Your mind cannot withstand the demon. Your heart can, though. You don't necessarily know where this is going. You have to walk the path. But holding resentment and hostility, and that's why they'll come at, even after me saying this, they're going to try to prove to me that I hate them. That's how it works. That's how synchronicity works. There will be events now that will try to make me hate them. Well, my ego isn't infallible. That may happen for an hour here or there, but the truth is the truth. And as far as hating anyone, hating any group on this planet, that's just not fair. I think the original group that started this whole thing on planet Earth, look at it from a different way. What if the demons in this cancer consciousness descended upon Earth and found a human race the smartest one and upgraded them so they could be used, and those people had nobody to get help from? They would ask other species, other humans, help, help. No one could help them because it was the initial infection. It's not their fault. Not their fault. The problem is guilt and shame. And that's the one the Spirit really needs to work on, because the people that have been controlled like puppets to do the most horrific things, down to eating babies, feel like the creative Spirit could never accept them again. Well, I have a surprise for you. Yes, it can. You just are not looking at it correctly. And no, that doesn't mean, oh, well, okay, if it'll accept me, I can do it for another week. No, because the very moment you want its acceptance, it will start to transform your paradigm. You will suffer if you do it then. Once you decide to choose God, you will suffer if you do those things. I mean, whenever I would deviate from it in any way, it would rock me. But not to hurt me or to condemn me. It's saying, I'm taking over now. You're in therapy, buddy. That's kind of what my life is like. I get strong intervention when I deviate from this. So would anybody in the Illuminati. But it doesn't mean that it can't help you. Cancer is the most violent thing in your body. Or what about an autoimmune disorder where you're attacking yourself? Can you imagine how that's played out on the cellular level? Same thing as eating babies. It's the same thing. And only love can spontaneously heal cancer. You're not going to hold the cancer cells in guilt and shame, or else they will not heal. And because you need your body, your system, your consciousness manifestation to be synergistic, holistic, and in harmony and in love, there's no way you could hold parts of your body in guilt for becoming damaged or disconnected. The creative Spirit does not hate you for insanity, for it knows that you're insane. It is you that is in judgment of yourself. It is not, because it knows if you're disconnected from it, you will fail. You will become this way. It already knows that. Therefore, how can it judge you or condemn you for it? It knows you can't work if you're disconnected from it. It knows that about Satan or the cancer consciousness or the alien beings, anybody a part of that agenda, the predatory agenda. It knows that. So if it's telling you this, knowing that, what does that tell you? The people that have done the worst things in life are the ones the Spirit wants to activate first. They're so important to the Spirit. You have no idea how much you mean. And it's your guilt because you were conned into doing things to your own kind that you cannot forgive yourself for anymore. You think it's too late. I made a contract, with Satan. It's too late. Wait a minute, man. Can a 3-year-old sign a lease to an apartment? No. Why? Because they don't know what they're getting into. It's over their head. You have no contract with cancer. You have no contract with Satan. Satan will convince you of that. Show you the abyss. Show you all of these things, the emptiness, the void. That void is what you perceive when you're disconnected from the creation, spirit. It's not over for you. But Satan, I use Satan symbolically. This consciousness will do everything it can to make you think that it is over for you. Look at what you've done. Look at what you've done. You do not have the spirit to connect to the creative spirit. Bull. Bull, because everything you think you've done was from manipulation to your mind. Get rid of the hate. Demons are turning humans upon themselves. That is their primary weapon. And blackmail is a huge one. Once you've done those things, they say, well, look, well, if people know about this, they will turn on you. And then you place your importance over the importance of the entire planet and the entire human species. You stand up to that, and the creative spirit will back you. I promise you, no matter how traumatic the process, it will. I don't care what you have done. Do you understand this? Let it go. It is no more. It is no more. Humans can't move on. Cesar Millan teaches you this lesson. The Dog Whisperer. You think it's a show about raising your dog, but it's not. Life speaks to you. He's trying to show you that if you take an insane dog that may have attacked all kinds of dogs and you put it into a sane pack of dogs, they see that dog as a part of themselves. That's the difference. They don't say there's a problem with that dog. They say there's a problem with us, with myself, if that's occurring. Do you understand the difference? So they rehabilitate an insane dog like that, even if that dog goes after other dogs in the pack right then. They don't sit there and put it in doggy prison, hold it in guilt until it's done and condemned forever, because they know that it is a part of them. Therefore, like how you view your own body, they will heal that dog. They'll successfully rehabilitate it. They may nip at it strongly here and there to keep it in line until they oscillate it to normality, to sanity. Then, when it's sane, they don't sit there and say, ruff, 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 you know, last year you were insane, and try to reopen those wounds. When the dog moves on, done, over, finished. Can't change the past. Caesar is right. He says, but you humans, you just can't move on. Wink, wink. You hold each other in guilt and blame, and you reopen wounds. Could be a married couple. They're in an argument, and one of them was an alcoholic, but they had stopped drinking for 3 years, and the other one, if they can't win the argument, may say, but you were an alcoholic. 3 years ago, you drunk. That type of thing is this human insanity. Even if that person changed their behavior for 3 full years, they'll try to reopen the wound, to damage the self-esteem, maybe to win a momentary argument. It's not wrong. It's insane. You've got to start looking at all of the people as I, not them, or we, not they are bad and I am good. When you see a problem in society, you've got to learn through the creative spirit that that is a problem with you. If they have a problem, you have a problem. If you condemn them, you condemn yourself. Do you understand that now? Why do you think forgiveness is so important? Because they're you. They are you. And cancer tries to separate cells into me, 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 me. That's predatory. Hopefully these things are starting to make sense to you now. Why is forgiveness important? When you learn this language, when you learn this way to communicate, you will have no doubt that they're all you. That you're all components to something larger, therefore. If you condemn somebody, or argue with them, or try to disable their ability to heal, you're disabling your own ability to heal. Also, when you see the connection, then you'll realize, sinning, if you lust after somebody, covet after them, steal from them, Who are you stealing from? You! You'll see it now with your own eyes. If there's a problem with the Illuminati, that means there's a problem with you. Don't look at them and say, them, those demon-possessed people. That's a part of you that's suffering from that possession, that infection. Don't look at Destiny Universe and say, them, those people trying to mislead me. No, that's a part of you that you need to love. So you have to look through their ego. Look at what's happened to you. You don't even need to know their mind control techniques. Just observe yourself. When you were young, 4 or 5 years old, you would meet another kid and be like, want to be best friends? You didn't have all of this crap in your head. You were open. You weren't looking at people like, I hate you and I'm better than you. No, kids, they get along, don't they? Babies are psychic. Once you learn this language, you observe a baby now. You'll see, when babies get together, they just start laughing together and all that. Yeah, because they're exchanging images and concepts. Even with their little brains, they're connected. You've got to get rid of the hate, because you're only hating yourself. And then by doing that, and forgiving yourself, by finally having knowledge of why you've deviated, then you start to forgive yourself and open those keys to your spirit. And the more you forgive yourself, the more you forgive other people. The more you love yourself, the more you love your reality and the people in it. Because they know of this, cancer's trying to keep the separation going. That's why you're all arguing with each other. But if you single a person out, talk about how bad they are, you're doing that to you. Be mindful of anybody who tries to single people out, because you know that's a cancerous thing to do. And don't elevate other people above yourself either. That's not love. The strongest derivative of love is appreciation. Once you start to heal, you'll start to fall in love with people again, because you'll have the guidance of something very wise. And you become a mirror for them, rather than the absorber of their energy. If they are trying to manipulate you, you're like a mirror. And say, this is ridiculous. You can try to hurt me, but I love you. And you can't fake loving somebody. That's why you need to heal, because once you really tap into that, their spirit knows it. How is this going to work then? It's kind of like, say somebody falls into a cave, and there's no light in there, and you throw a few mirrors in there, and you can shine the sunlight into the cave and bounce it off of another mirror, and then shine it onto another mirror, which you can shine onto something else. When you receive the creative spirit, you become a mirror for that as well. You can aim it. It's like a bunch of dead batteries in below zero weather. Once a few cars get started, they can jumpstart other cars. And those cars can jumpstart other cars. Everybody has a spirit inside of them. They just need to be jump-started. Their will has been really damaged over a cycle of reincarnation, over and over. This is very important. You need to jump-start people. And you can't do that from ego to ego. Only from heart to heart. And then it will manifest in the ego as a residual effect. When people try to discredit me, I can't hate them. I went through that process, and I've learned that lesson now over the last few months. It kept reminding me, who are you hating? Look what happened to you. That's why the internet can really tear you away from the spirit. Look what happened to you. That's why the internet can really tear you away from the spirit. Because it is just so messed up. That's why I turned off my messaging. Divine intervention just said, you got to stop this. Yes, you may get positive comments, but you get the negative. If you depend upon either, you become disconnected. I've become much more focused by turning off my email while I'm doing this, because of my awareness of the access it can have to me. Listen, this idea of no fear is not of the spirit. in the sense that they're trying to condition you to have no fear in a battle type of sense. And then if you experience fear, then you feel like a failure, don't you? You are going to get scared every once in a while. That's a normal reaction. That will be part of your learning tool. Trust within so that you can receive from without. You've got to heal. People are screwed up. They're so conditioned by mind control to want to point their finger at everybody except themselves. And they don't see how it's leading to the demise of them and their whole species. Check and see how good you feel when you know you've helped somebody, when you follow the path and it just unfolds, where you're not trying to force it, but it just happens. See how alive you feel. Love is infinite. You're not going to run out. It's not about running out of love. It's about whether the valve is turned to open or closed. If you keep it closed, it can atrophy. And those are the dead car batteries. You need to keep the flow moving, getting the energy of love inside this tumor, and start the spontaneous healing of this cancer. The hardest thing for people will be to let go of the past because you've been so conditioned to hang on to it. 3 strikes and you're out. Everything there to condition your mind. Bullshit. You got to break this control system and heal. You are in the now. I don't care what you've done. And people need to step up in their divine character and see through that. And if you want to hang on to pointing your finger at all the people that have done horrible things, you are only hurting yourself. You need the divine wisdom. And that is the Spirit. I've told you how to connect to it. I myself need to communicate with people and follow the path in real life. I'm not going to get concerned about whatever sites may pop up to discredit me. Fine. I can be discredited. I am the first person to admit that. If you hate me, you're hurting yourself. For example, like when I was molested as a child, people say, how can you forgive that man that did that to you? Because he didn't do it to me. It was a demon that did that to affect me. How am I going to hate him? His ego may not know that, but I know that. So yeah, I can forgive him. And guess what taught me to do that? My mind for the first 33 years of my life could not do that. The mind cannot withstand this on its own. Intellect, disconnected from the Spirit, cannot withstand this. It cannot give you your eyes and ears. Only the Spirit can do that. So yeah, I forgive him because I know why. If I didn't, it would be poison to my very essence. You must rise above this. Become what you are. Activate and become functional with this. The time is now, as it always is. Now one final thing, because people will ask me, what's the deal with David Icke in the beginning of this video? Seeing Christ on the globe like that. I don't know. I looked up the picture of the earth and I've seen that picture elsewhere. It looks like it was slightly modified. I just put it in the negative and there it was. I don't know if David Icke even caught that because I've seen that picture before. Maybe he did, maybe he did not. I'm not really making a claim about that. I'm just showing you what I saw. Remember, the image of Christ on the cross is a subconscious symbol to keep you from speaking the truth. Most people that read The Biggest Secret come out of that scared to death. Alright, so I don't know. I don't know if David Icke is aware of that. I have the book and I've seen, well, I can't answer you. I'm showing you what I hear and what I see. And that's all I can do. But I had to put that out there for you. Okay? Okay, I have to add a PS here. Just the lessons, the opening up is just happening at an accelerated rate here. I thought I had this upload finished and I went to a health food store to get a vegetarian sandwich pocket. Some feta and spinach and mushroom thing. Anyway, I walk in there and there are the different employees. And I'm thinking, it's all on my mind, right? About, ooh, the demons don't want me talking about this, right? Oh, they're following me around. And then I started to feel the nervous feeling in my body, right? And I thought to myself, come on now, I can overcome this. Just tap into the Creator, but I was still nervous. And then my eyes just looked to a product and it said more. Okay, there were many words on it, but the one that my eyes focused on was more. Think of it more. Really think of your value and what's going on. Started to look around the shop while I was waiting for my sandwich. And I still felt it, that negative wavelength that they were trying to put me on, right? I'm like, no, I can overcome this. And I looked at another product and it said, care away. So remove your care of that. Forget about that. And I started thinking to myself, oh, this is just an experience. It's only an experience in this reality of creation. And I'm trying to overcome it, right? Trying. Then there's this lady there that was asking directions to the guy at the ponytail at this natural health food store and this other woman. And they didn't know the answer, so I said, oh, I know the answer to that. And I just gave her the directions to get there. And she said, okay, thanks. I said, sure. You know. Then I went and got a natural soda. They have a lot of natural stuff there. And I was checking it out, and he said to me, I heard it when you gave her the directions. He said, I was thinking, you know, this and that, and I thought she was talking about this, and then I thought she was talking about that, and I just couldn't get it. And then I heard what you said, and your directions were exactly it. Then right away in my head, what popped in as a thought bubble was, oh, wait a minute. Because I'm aware of this whole communication thing, so I'm trying to figure out what it means, right? I'm like, oh, you mean the recordings I've been doing, what I've been doing in phase 3. And then he looks at me and says, yeah, your directions were perfect. And then I thought, oh, you mean the directions to get to the Creator, to connect to God again, to connect to the creative spirit, to heaven. And then he said right away, yeah, your directions, they were perfect. And if you think about it, why would someone go out of their way to talk about how perfect your directions were 2 times in a row, you know? So I'm thinking, and I turn around, and I'm walking in the store, and I look down, and my eyes go right to a candy bar, a chocolate bar, and on the label of that chocolate bar was the word divine. And I'm like, no, as soon as I see divine, all of a sudden, as soon as that clicks in my head, divine, which was instantaneous, then the woman in the store went, like that. And it corrected it because I allowed it to happen. So yes, it can come through people depending on what radio channel you're logging on to. It's amazing. God was speaking to me, letting me know, yes, those are the exact directions. I may have told you, yes, the Cancer consciousness can speak through people, yes, but if you're on the wavelength of love, then it commands the ego. It allows them to receive the spirit too. I told you that the Cancer consciousness can be like an agent in the Matrix, anybody at any time, but so can the spirit. I was sitting there thinking about it, just like, wow, because you'll know, once you tune into this, you know, there is no doubt in your mind. People say, does God ever speak to you? Yeah, it speaks to you through its creations and through your reality. That's how it does it, you understand? So I was thinking about that, and I'm like, wow, look at that, the positive and negative ego. As soon as I started thinking that they were going to come and psychically attack me, I got all nervous. But when I dropped it, and it guided me to drop it, remove it. But when I dropped it, and it guided me to drop it, remove it, don't care about that, just see it as an experience and everything. And then I allowed it to happen. So I went up to this man and woman, and we started talking. Now he was on a divine frequency. And I brought up the whole communication thing, but this time it only took like 3-4 minutes to get the message across. Hey, you ever notice how life speaks to you? If you think of the terms of, yes, we all are having our conscious conversation right now, but you know that there's a larger mind that guides all of us, like you sustain your body. And I went through the whole thing in like 2 minutes, and the guy was like, as if he already knew. I said, isn't that interesting? And I explained what happened. I said, these were the thoughts going through my mind. Now, I know consciously you were talking about the directions. Let me explain how that was coordinated. And then I saw the chocolate bar with divine on it because I've been talking about the path to the creative spirit and everything. And I said, have you ever noticed that? He said, yes. And I'm like, yes, people are awake to this. And I said to him, man, it's weird at first, isn't it? It took me a while to get a handle on this. He says, yeah. He says, Thanks for sharing that. I'm glad you reminded me of that. And I said, you're welcome. And I turned to go get my sandwich. He said, well, thank you. From both ways. And then psychically in my mind, I knew what that meant. What that meant was many things. That's why language doesn't cut it. Thank you from both directions, both ways, from both ends. What does that mean? What did it mean in that moment? Just like when I tell you that a deer can mean many things doing the same thing, depending. What did that mean? That the truth, divine truth, the pure truth, will be seen as truth from both sides of this binary state of good and bad. If it is true, both sides will have to agree that it's true. That's what that meant. And also, even though I appeared to say that to him and remind him, he also played a role in reminding me, coordinated by the Spirit. And he understood that. And he let me know he understood that. So I'm being led to people now that know what I know, at least on some level, or if I tell them, they get it in a matter of minutes. They know it. They're starting to figure this out. You understand? And because it's your collective reality. You're part of something larger. And your state will dictate your experience in it. So if I'm worrying about the demonic focus on me, then my will is placed there, and I give it energy. If I just relax and allow the Creator to do what it does, then it does it. And there I got to assist people, and then it put in my head as I went out of the store, see, when you gave that lady directions, it feels good to help people, doesn't it? Even something that small. That's when you feel the best. Take note of how you feel right now. What just happened? What it was like when I was expressing this with that person and explaining it and having him understand it was like the inverse to an orgasm. An orgasm is the draining of your creative essence. This is like the infusion of it, God filling your cup. And it happens as quickly. It's like these divine moments of knowledge are like the opposite to an orgasm, but the same frequency. Instead of discharging, you're charging. And it made me take notice of that. So do you see how you feel right now? After an orgasm, you're drained. Now how do you feel? You feel alive, don't you? That charged you, didn't it? Interacting and speaking to people as them, as another part of you. At first I was looking at that guy before I talked to him like, he's kind of weird. He could be someone that will try to antagonize me. And then it said, see? You see? Now do you get it? And so I'm driving. And I was thinking, and I came to a four-way stop. And I'm thinking, that really was divine repairing of that situation. All of a sudden this girl in a car opposite of my direction at the four-way stop, you know, directly across from me, suddenly just reaches up and touches her nose. For no reason, just reaches up and touches her nose exactly in response to my thought. It will always speak to you. And it can do that. You see, it didn't really violate her free will. It didn't. It's for the good of the whole. So therefore, making her feel like she needs to touch her nose is good for the whole. And it doesn't really alter her conscious experience while she's driving in her car. And it just all comes together. And then I went and parked in this nature area to eat my sandwich. And I was thinking about the man Christ and what he was saying and how what seems to be happening right now. And I'm thinking, no. Is this how? And then the wind just picked up. Whoosh. And I was just thinking, I love the creative spirit. I just love you. I love what you're doing with me. And I'm driving back home, and now I'm seeing people drive past me, and I'm looking at them with appreciation and love. Felt like a kid, you know? I'm looking at them, and I didn't have the poison in my mind. It was like, oh, look at you dressed this way, you dress that way, you're driving this, you think this. Like my old ego used to think when I thought I was intelligent. Now I can just look at people, and I just had this love for them, and then it put into my mind. That's what sustains them. Doesn't matter if they know of you or not. If you look at them and their image and their essence, and you love them, that sustains them. Just like negative energy affects people. Love will sustain them. just by loving them. Because you're a part of something larger. And so now you're an awareness of them, connected to them, and that will affect them. As they're driving down the road, it could trigger a certain thought or whatever, but it sustains their essence. Every time you can look at somebody just for a moment with love, it's like plugging in your rechargeable battery for a moment. It gives them that juice. It gives them the sustaining essence of this whole reality. And it's said again, love my other creations. They are you. It is me in you and in them. If I'm helping you and I'm in them, what does that tell you? Yes, there's a problem right now, but see, the more you focus on me, it said, the essence of love and life, the creative spirit, the more I'll guide you. The more you'll have communication with me. You just needed to open up to it. It's always been there. And it guided me, and it was just wonderful. It's so funny because I know people have experienced this, but they didn't know how to properly explain it to people. And it said, this is the role that you get to play. In your healing, you get to be a healer. You get to play an active role, and I'm happy if you understand this. I'm happy that you explain it. You're not going to be the only one to explain it anyway. So don't put the whole world on your shoulders. You're playing your part. This isn't going to be stopped. You know? I mean, the wind just picked up outside my house right now. I mean, do you think the creative spirit's just like, relax. Relax and follow your path. Learn your lessons. Follow your path. Always be focused on me, and me is the love, the spirit, the sustainer, the creator. And this spirit would speak to me through winds and chirps and birds and agree, yes. Look how much joy you have. I looked around and I was by a lake and the sun was shining off of the lake. And it kind of said, through life, for you. All the people and animals, for you. And to them, you would be part of what I would say to them, for you. You are for everybody and they are for you. You are for everything and it is for you. Appreciate it. So I was walking around slowly, just, you're not alone, you're so not alone. When you open up like this, you are so not alone. I went and there was this little bridge, you know, about a 8-foot bridge just over this little groove that had water in it because the snow was melting, and there were these 2 ducks there. And I sat down and the ducks acknowledged me. At first they were startled by my presence, and I calmed my mind. And I looked at them and said to them in my mind, I love you. I'm not going to hurt you. And every once in a while people would come by and they would get startled. And I asked the duck, quite honestly with my mind, are you connected to the spirit? And it just bobbed its head in a nod. I said, you're aware of my thoughts? It bobbed its head in a nod. I said, will you come to me? It didn't come to me. Right now the train, the whistle's going. This whole thing is just... I feel like I'm coming out of a coma or something. And I looked at the duck and then I thought to myself, well, I'm asking the duck to come to me. That's not happening. Then I remembered the lesson that I told you in The Healing Begins Now. The hope that it will come, the belief that it will not, and then I realized, oh yeah, that's me inside the duck. It's me. It's that which is flowing through me is flowing through it. That which animates me is animating it. It's the same thing. And as soon as that came into my head, boom, the 2 ducks turned around and started swimming right towards me. As if to say, yes. Then these runners came by and they went, they scurried away. And then I tried it again. I said, so, come to me. They didn't come. And then I just realized, You're me. You're me inside of a different body, a larger part of me inside that body and that mind. Boom, they turned and started coming towards me. The train was helping, the wind was picking up to verify what was happening. And I said, so you understand? Do you consciously understand? And it bobbed its head. And then I let it know. I said, okay. And it shook its head and, it started doing its thing, ruffling its feathers. So I said, do you understand then that you have your conscious experience as well? And it said, boom. And it bobbed its head for me. Yes, I have my conscious experience of this like you, but I also know that you are me. And that's why we're scared of humans, because they don't know this. And I said, okay. Not so much in language, with the intent. So I visualized in my head, I'm going to stand up now. I don't want to startle you. Do you understand that? That I'm going to get up and leave. And then he bobbed his head. And I said, okay. And I stood up and he didn't move. He didn't scurry away. And I said, thank you very much. And he bobbed his head to me. And I bobbed my head back and I said, thank you again. And he bobbed his head, And when you become psychic this way, you know that you're communicating with them. There's no question. And I walked around the lake again, and there it was, and the wind was picking up, and then it made me realize, who's been helping you this whole time? You. A larger part of you. You commanded the wind, not your personality, that which animates you, because it is you in a scalar reality. The beauty of life is you have your individual experience, yes. But it is you, the Spirit, that makes you so. So if you love the Spirit, and you don't want to lose your soul, you are the larger Spirit. So you won't let that happen. So look around. It's wonderful. The design is wonderful. And you open up to it. And it's crazy because you realize, if you're not connected to love or the Spirit, opening up like this could torment you. It certainly has me through this process, and seemed like an absolute nightmare. A disconnection from the Creator is hell. Hell is not a destination. It is a disconnection. When you open up this way and you're not connected to the Creator, it can consume you. But when you're connected to the Creator and the Spirit, it's fun. All I can tell you, it is the most incredible, fun, entertaining existence. Life is awesome when you're connected to the Spirit and you understand the whole thing. It's fun. So much more opens up to you. It's amazing. All the information is there. Life is amazing. And it said, yes, humans are going to have to get out into nature to become human again. As weird as that sounds, you're going to need some, it's not solitude, but you've got to get away from humans and interact with life again so that you can handle going back into the human community and discerning because they're infected, so that you can look at them and love them. And so you start to look at all these people, and I have giant fat people coming by, skinny people, and I just love them all because I realized, finally, that's me. Inside their body, confined right now to their personality and their body, that's another part of me that's inside their paradigm. And just know that. It's you inside them, looking through the blinders of their personality at yourself. It's not some crazy, subjective, weird thing. That's just the nature of life. And they're going to have that personality because that is part of creation, your individuality. And there's nothing wrong with appreciating that and knowing that. It said once this is understood and people realize you're all one thing, animating all of you. And throughout the day, you can be the floating finger, you can open up and communicate, you can have your experiences, but once you understand that, you'll reconnect to it. And animals know this. I love it, you can talk to them. And it said, do you see how much joy you have? It doesn't say it, you understand what I'm saying. It'll just put it in your mind. You understand. The train is totally confirming everything I'm saying right now. You're like, the train? You just wait. The true children of God play. That's what you do. That's what life is. Playing and learning and playing and appreciating. You feel like a kid again. You walk through the woods and you notice every pine needle, every leaf, a leaf falling, and the beauty of it, and you can't handle that unless you're connected to the Spirit. But then when you open up, it's such appreciation. It's everywhere you look. You just, wow. And I envisioned myself being a Native American when it was all raw and pure here, and just being in such appreciation of life and the gift for you. Enjoy. You know? It's the earth for you, and you are for it. And it's all perfect. It's just perfect. The children of God are playful. Playful meaning you're playing in the woods, you're enjoying it, taking it all in. So, all I can tell you right now is get out there and do it. Get out there and play with this. Get out there and play. Rejoin with the Spirit. Nothing is more interesting, I'm telling you. It's fascinating. I know that even 2 years ago, if I heard somebody talking like me, I'd be like, yeah, I know, there's lots of neat stuff in the woods and life's great and everything. No, I had blinders on. Even though I would agree with this 2 years ago, yeah, nature's great. Yeah, the lake is pretty. No, it's nothing like when you reconnect to the Spirit. It's a whole different ball game. This is not an analytical thing. This is, you're just going to have to see and feel and experience. Life is awesome. Life is amazing. It's magnificent. It is just incredible. And the Spirit is as much you as it is me and everything. So you've probably figured out by now that for those of you, a lot of you listening to me, I'm just another part of you, guiding you, telling you what you were not able to get from your own spirit, to lead you to reconnect to your spirit, so you can have as much fun with this as I am. It's so much fun being in love with the Spirit that creates everything. Now do me a favor, would you? This is the most important information that everybody needs to know on the planet Earth right now. For without this knowledge, you're lost. Okay? Think of it like having horrible vision and someone giving you glasses. Horrible vision and someone giving you glasses. For the mind, for the heart. Everybody needs to know this. This can't be a situation where there's only 200 viewers of this information. You've got to do everything you can. If you get out there and you learn this, direct other people to the same gift of knowing this, okay? This is not about me. And I'm not even going to really stay online. It's not about how many subscribers Jonathan gets. Are you kidding? This isn't about me. It's about you and everything. You're going to see. You don't need a cult. You don't need a group. You don't need to do any of that. This is for you. This is for your awakening. This is to raise you from the dead. And you will see. Nothing will give you more joy when you remember that there's love in you and what love really is, what awareness really is. Nothing will give you more joy than loving. To love is to love, to appreciate, regardless of the stimulus. It is just in you. And then when you do that, you get it back. And your lessons will guide you there. Do you understand? You're all going to get your own individualized lessons. I promise you. Catered to exactly you. To bring you into awareness and love for the Spirit again. You know, humans make so much out of certain things. Mysticism. Well, animals certainly aren't calling it mysticism. They're calling it life. Abundance. I was walking in the woods and I realized why you shouldn't kill yourself. Let the creative spirit decide when it's time for that. Because when you're in appreciation of life and you know of your guidance and your abundance, there's no reason to do that. Alright? And if it ever got to a situation where life was too painful, and you're in connection to the Spirit like this, it will guide you. Don't think suicidal. Because when you are raised from the dead, you remember how cool this all is. I'm telling you, you must build your house on a rock. Otherwise, this can turn into a nightmare for you. But if you do it via the intent to reconnect to your spirit, and when you calibrate, when you start to learn how to play that guitar, when you start to get those calluses, which is ignoring the input of the disconnected essence, get the coordination to form the chords on the guitar, and you start to play, it's fun. It's so fun. And the beauty of it is when you're able to have that type of command over your reality and love and experience with it. When you know that everything you look at is you, you're not going to hurt anything. There is no danger of that. And if you go this route, the real route, through the Divine Spirit, if you're out of balance, it will take that away. Just because. It's fail-safe. This is life. And it will speak to you. It will guide you. Be mindful of every sound, every car in the background that may be spinning their tires, a crowd cheering for a game in the background, a bunch of geese flying over. Be so mindful of everything. And when you do it in appreciation, you'll be calm and you'll love it. You will love it. You'll see. At a certain moment, for all of you, it's just going to click. Just like when you suddenly are able to play that chord out of the blue on a guitar. It will just click. You won't know when and you won't know where, but you will certainly know that it happened. And it's happening. Start in nature, okay? Start in nature, because the animals will teach you. They will guide you because they are also animated. They are animated by the Spirit and in full awareness at any given moment of these things. It's time for you to learn from the Creator's creations. From the ducks, the deer, the geese, the squirrels. All of them. So, connect to the Spirit. I'm talking in circles now, but I really want to drive that home. Base this on love and the Spirit, which is in you and everybody, even if they're infected with an essence that's trying to separate them. Within them is the Spirit. Know that, and know that that Spirit is you. You going to argue with them? Trying to make them feel bad about themselves and evil about themselves when it's another part of you? Or do you want to heal that? What would make you feel better? If it is you, think about it. What is the greatest gift? The greatest gift ever is forgiveness. Not so much God's forgiveness for you. When it imparts and infuses into you the ability to forgive yourself and everybody else. The greatest gift is not if you beg the Spirit for forgiveness and it forgives you. No. The greatest gift is when your spirit is activated and you forgive yourself and everybody else. That's the beauty, because you can only do that when you realize these things. It will transform from theory and philosophy to reality, undeniably. So get out there and play. Thank you very much for listening.